Life Fund. Its Living Planet report has assessed 5,000 species of birds, amphibians, reptiles and fish worldwide and mapped how those populations have changed over the decades. They're now calling for immediate action to halt what they call a nature and climate crisis. Tanya Steele is the fund's chief executive.
It is a severe warning that we are facing both a climate and a nature catastrophe, and ultimately it's driven by human activity, which has continued at pace in converting so much of the natural world, whether this has been through construction, but actually largely the way in which we're changing the natural world in terms of converting land for food and for agriculture. Importantly, world leaders have been missing in action despite dire warnings over repeated years, and we need them to step forward and put in place an action plan before it is too late.
She says there is a very, very short window for action, and while conceding that the war in Ukraine and other international developments are siphoning away the attention of many world leaders, she says the evidence of the impacts of climate change themselves speak volumes about the need to give the issue immediate focus. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
FSN is an independent source of news for TV, radio and digital networks worldwide. You can find more of our minute-by-minute updates on Twitter. Follow us there at Feature Story. And we have a wealth of audio and video stories from our global news bureaus on Facebook. You can find us there by following Feature Story News. Stay tuned for further updates right here. But for now, that's the latest Feature Story News. William Denzelo reporting.
If you're just tuning in, a horrific accident. Dozens are dead and hundreds more injured after the Coors Light party train crashed in Pratt, Kansas. The train was barreling through a field on its way to liven up a boring, overheated barbecue when something went wrong. Partiers were thrown hundreds of feet from the train as the frost-powered locomotive careened through bystanders at its normal speed of over 27,000 miles per hour. Rescue crews are struggling to get close to the crash. The Rocky Mountain frost radiating from the downed silver bullet is flash freezing survivors' bodies as they try to escape the wreckage, and the OJ's hit song Love Train is looping at deafening levels. No word yet on the cause of the accident, but investigators are focusing now on the fact that the train weighs 400 million tons and was not on rails. Coors Light has released the following statement, quote, Coors Light regrets any loss of life caused by the Coors Light party train's raw, frosty power. Please continue to enjoy Coors Light. We'll have more on this story as it develops.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome to Free Talk Live. It is the live Saturday edition of the show. You can join us here if you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
Beagless Mountaineer.
The captain's back and there's gonna be trouble. Hey, yeah, the captain's back.
Hey, good to have you back, Captain.
It is.
So, open phones as always. You can bring up anything that you want here on Free Talk Live. We always have stuff that we think you're going to find interesting to discuss here tonight. And, Captain, when I asked you before the show what you wanted to talk about, the first thing you brought up was the latest Joe Biden clip. Well, I should say one of the latest ones.
Yeah.
Because there's another one where he's talking about that his sister was 3 years younger than him, and then she was 23 years younger than him, or something like, or maybe it was the other way around.
Yeah.
It was a really weird, confusing statement of, obviously he's got dementia or something like that. He's not making any sense. And then he further goes on to say that every Biden man has a younger Biden woman. He makes that statement in that clip. I don't have that clip for you because like I said, there's been a couple of them recently within the last 24 hours.
Well, to be fair, my question was, have you covered this new Joe Biden clip?
The clip in question apparently was taken at a community college.
And first of all, before you do the reveal on the clip, I just want anybody who's listening, don't let your kids near politicians, particularly Joe Biden. Please stop doing that. Like,
I mean, preferably keep your kids away from government employees of all kinds.
Right, but if they have some sort of, even if it's an unfounded reputation of like being weird around children, like just don't allow them around them. I don't they're
a bad influence. It doesn't matter whether they are a child toucher like Joe Biden is, and a sniffer. or just your typical warmongering, sick politician. Do not let your kids near these people. Don't bring your kids near a judge. Don't bring them near the cops. Don't bring them near politicians. These people are dangerous.
Yeah, but if I don't offer a human sacrifice to Joe Biden, how will we ever defeat Trump?
So the story here comes from a young gentleman, Colin De Almeida, who is apparently with the Turning Point USA organization, which, as I understand, is like a conservative young persons group of some sort.
Yeah.
I think they've got some college groups or whatever. Anyway, he's at Irvine Valley Community College and manages to get right next to Joe Biden while Joe is leaning in to talk to a young lady who looks fairly young, but I presume she's a college girl. She's at the
one would assume.
Yeah, she's at the community college, and her friend are kind of mugging for a camera with Joe Biden right behind them, and that's where the clip starts. So let's go ahead and play this for you. They're clearly having a photograph taken. She's smiling. Looks like she's excited to be there.
I told my daughter and granddaughters, no serious guys in your 30s.
Okay. No what?
No serious guys in your 30s.
I'll keep that in mind.
And then he just kind of leans in on her and grabs her by the shoulder.
The creepy part is when he's standing directly behind her, puts both hands, one on each shoulder from behind.
I don't think you can tell where the other hand is.
Well, that's what it looked like to me when I saw it. But at any rate, then sort of just leans over, with like controlling her by her shoulders or whatever, and leans over into her ear and says this thing about no serious guys until you're 30.
It's not the first time he said that either.
Well, he says he gave that same advice to his granddaughters and
daughters and granddaughters, right? Yeah. So what does that mean exactly, though, Mr. Biden? Like, what are you?
Well, I just want you to be sexually available for, as long as I find you attractive.
That's what it sounds like, right? I mean, could this be any more creepy?
Well, I just don't want you to have, like, a male protector around. Is that so wrong?
Yeah, I think it could be more creepy.
You're probably right.
But yeah, he definitely sounds like he's encouraging this young woman to be promiscuous and to involve herself
until a minimum of age 30.
Yeah, to involve herself with men who are not going to take a relationship with her seriously.
With as many abortions as possible.
This seems like terrible advice.
Every stem cell helps fight Trump.
He does preface it with, a piece of advice that I used to give my daughters and granddaughters is this, right? But, why is he telling this to some random girl at a college?
Does that include the one whose, diary we got about him, stepping into the shower with her when she's 12?
That was his daughter,
Ashley.
Yeah.
Who knows what he was saying to her in the shower. But we'll just play this one more time here, and you can watch his hand. He definitely puts one hand up on her shoulder.
I told my daughter and granddaughters, no serious guys in your 30s.
Okay. No what?
No serious guys in your 30s.
I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. He does have his other hand on the other shoulder. And the guy who's recording the video seems to be amused by this entire thing. Like you could tell he's happy he got this.
He's like, "Oh, this is going to be a juicy clip."
Yeah, and it's blowing up. It's definitely getting passed around.
Yeah, I just these people. I wouldn't trust Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, any of the presidents that have been, in the chair, if you will, since I've been alive. I wouldn't trust any of them around my children. I don't have any, but if I did, I wouldn't trust them around. Well, your
I don't
children.
trust them around anyone's children.
Yeah, your children, anybody's. I'd be like, oh, children, please
of
get
all
away.
Ages,
abscond,
80, whatever.
Abscond from these filthy people.
He's either going to touch them or sniff them, or worse, or possibly send them to die in a war overseas.
Yeah,
whichever way it goes, it's not going to be good.
All of the above.
It could be all of the above. Yeah, sure. Okay, so for the record, I pulled up the other clip that has been going around within the last 24 hours. This is him, I believe, actually at the same event. So the college was in Irvine, California. This is, you can tell in the background, this is also in Irvine, California. This is from his speech.
I married up. I was one of those guys my whole life. I've been surrounded by women who've taken care of me. Maybe they're smarter than I am. My younger sister used to be 3 years younger than me. Now she's 23 years younger.
Huh?
That is not how aging works, Joe.
Is he making a joke about women lying about their age, maybe?
Could be. I don't know. There's a little more here.
It's a very generous interpretation.
single solitary Biden man that is younger than any Biden woman. And
okay, so he's saying that Biden men have a taste for younger women. And hey, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I think that to some extent is the way of the world.
Yeah.
But he's...
Well, hold on. If there is not a single solitary Biden man who is younger than any Biden woman, so Hunter is older than Jill, and I gotta say, he looks amazing.
Right? Yeah. You have to take the youngest Biden woman and then go, okay, all of the Biden men are older than that.
Oh no, I thought he was saying like there's not a single solitary Biden male that is younger than any Biden female.
Well, no, I don't think he was being clear, obviously.
We should really start putting crack in the old diet because it's doing wonders for Hunter. I mean, he's older than Jill. Look at that guy.
He wasn't being clear. I'm pretty sure what he means is in a couple, all of the Biden men in a given couple are the older.
You mean he hasn't proven to be able to do math?
No.
Captain Context is here.
So anyway, there's your most recent Biden clips, and what are you gonna do? And keep your kids away from this guy. He's dangerous.
And keep everybody away. Like,
sure,
stop listening to the bastard. Like,
that'd be nice.
All of the bastards, really. Like, they have, I don't know. Choose independence. Choose freedom for yourself. You have the ability. You have the power. It's within you.
Yeah, but you kind of have to do it together with other people, unfortunately, because you can't just declare your own personal independence and have these people leave you alone. They will continue to come after you.
But that's how it starts.
Yes,
well,
that's true.
I'd like to point out that if at some point in the last, say, 6 years, you've been like, that's not a legitimate person in power, you are halfway there. Now, if that was Trump, you're halfway there. If that was Biden, you're halfway there.
You have to be able to see that to be true of all of the people in power.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to be able to apply it to not just the team that you don't like, but all of the teams that present themselves as teams.
Like, what have these teams ever done for you anyway? Besides all the people that are taking welfare. Obviously, you guys love, big government, having more checks and more control over your lives. But for those of us who actually value independence and freedom, neither the Democrats or the Republicans at the federal level have done jack diddly to advance that concept. They just keep making the government bigger. They keep having wars all around the planet.
Agreed.
And they keep destroying innocent life both here and abroad. You can weigh in here, though, if you want. The phone lines are wide open. You can share your thoughts at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. Coming up here, Europe is desperate for liquefied natural gas, and we'll talk a little bit about how desperate they're getting. CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, are back in the news, and Peakless Mountaineer has a story about that. Of course, your calls are welcome here at 603-283-6160. We may even talk about the most surveilled cities in the world. The captain has the list.
Oh, yeah, I do.
So we can talk about all those things. But, of course, phones are wide open. We'll get to your calls. But first, also, Bitcoin.com is a great place to go and learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. If you are ready to go down the road of learning about this world-changing financial technology that is really shaking up financial markets and is just going to continue disrupting that world, especially the world of fiat money. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Bitcoin.com can give you that information. Just click Get Started at the top of the page, and you'll find some introductory videos that you can watch there. If you're short on time, just watch that first one. It takes, I think, all of 3 minutes of your time, and you'll get some of the basic concepts down. What you want to do, you want to wrap your head around this a little bit before you decide to put some money in and acquire some cryptocurrency, which you can also do through Bitcoin.com. They have that feature. They have a news site at news.bitcoin.com and so many other cool things there. So check them out at Bitcoin.com. As we go to your phone calls and thoughts, we got Jet on the line in Vegas. Go ahead, Jet.
Yeah, I wanted to pass along some information. A lot of people don't know about this, but there's these guys called First Amendment auditors.
Yeah.
We have one on the show.
We have one pretty regularly. Yeah. He's moved out of the Keene area, so he's not coming on as often. But Joa from Breaking the Flaw lives in New Hampshire. Okay. We've had Press NH Now, who recently defeated a disorderly conduct and obstructing government administration charge at trial. He has been on our show a couple times. But yeah, go ahead. What about him?
Well, just to let people know, they go into public buildings, just walk around videoing the place, hoping that someone will interfere with their freedom of the press.
Sure.
And eventually, it seems like a lot of people end up calling the police, but they do go and videotape other things like outside, whether it's prisons or police stations or just some other, maybe some contractor with the government. Anyway, eventually the police show up and start ask them what they're doing there and that kind of thing. And they just say, "Oh, we're just videotaping." Of course, they use terms like taping and filming. I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah, old terms.
But anyway,
kind of have to if you're going to speak legalese.
Well, and also people still use the term dial for, when they're calling somebody. Nobody actually dials anything.
Well, eventually these cops will start demanding ID, and so that's the whole objective, is to not only educate the people on why they should be allowed to video, but not having to show their ID. So it turns out that in most states, there are only 3 circumstances under which you have to show an ID. That is, number 1, if you have committed a crime, if you're known to have committed a crime, or you are in the process of committing a crime, or you are about to commit a crime. Any other situation is unlawful, but most people don't know that, and so the cops tend to intimidate you and BS you into doing that stuff. So,
yeah, and it is good that you pointed out, Jet, that there are different rules about this in different states. So, we're not giving legal advice. You may want to check your local attorneys and find out exactly what it is there. As I understand it, that is true what you said in some number of states. In others, there may be a stop and identify statute to where maybe you don't have to show ID per se, but you may have to, depending on which state it is, you may have to identify yourself to an officer, depending on circumstances, depending on the state. That said, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to have identification.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are the other 2?
What are the other 2 states?
No, you said you'd narrowed it down to like 3 times when like legitimately they can ask you, and you said
3
one.
times. Yes.
When you are committing, when you are about to commit, and when you have just committed.
Oh, those are the okay. I'm sorry. I thought there were 3 different sets of circumstances different than that.
Anyway, so they go through that process of trying to intimidate you into bowing down and telling you have to stand over here and do this. I'd love to. It's kind of entertainment for me, like on a Friday night, to watch some of these guys, because some of them are so bold to be able to just tell the guy, say, "Hey, dog, I'm not your dog. Don't order me around.
Right.
You don't have, that type of thing."
Yeah, their lines are really good, and you can tell they're experienced at standing up for themselves, which is that's the fun part. One of the fun parts about watching these guys is most of them it's not their first rodeo. They've been through this before. They know what to expect. They know what the cops are going to try to say to them, or what the bureaucrats are going to say, and they know their rights, and they know they're within their rights. They're very careful about operating legally, and they just make a stand. And most of the time they back down the police. Sometimes the cops will arrest them, though, and then you get to go to court and fight it out.
Yeah, well, they obviously have lawyers and all that kind of thing at the ready. But I wanted to cover also the thing about being stopped while you're so-called driving. They pull you over with license, registration, proof of insurance, that kind of thing.
Right.
Well, a lot of these guys these days are using the term "I don't answer questions."
Right.
I don't like that as much as some of the other responses I've seen. Like one guy said, "I'm not saying." I thought that was pretty funny. Or "It's none of your business." Or the one I use all the time is "It's not important," because I've been stopped several times.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Walking around, it's not important, and they seem to accept that.
I was on board with the phrase that I would use is, "I'm sorry, officer, but I don't answer questions." Right? Yes, I'd give them my license and whatever they're asking for. Right?
Yeah, it's a good one.
But I would say that specific phrase. "I'm sorry, officer, but I don't answer questions." They look in my seat. They're like, "Oh, what's in the bag?" "I'm sorry, officer, I don't answer questions."
If there's anything you can train yourself to do when it comes to the police, is use that response as like an automatic response, because the police have a way of tricking people. Like it's it's sort of human nature to talk, right? Like, oh, this person's asking me a question. I'm a good person. I will answer the question because this is just another human being. Well, in this case, this is a human being, but they want to put you in a cage. They're looking for reasons to put you in handcuffs. Exactly. They're looking for reasons to write you a ticket. They want to oppress you, and they need you to talk yourself into these tickets. So the more you say to them, the more dangerous it is, the closer you become to being arrested. The safest words I've ever heard these guys say is what you're saying, Captain, is "I don't answer questions." Just have that one down.
I would add just a little bit to that. Rather than just saying "I don't answer questions," I don't answer stupid questions, or I don't answer silly questions. Like where you going?
Well, if you're trying to piss off the cop, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think.
If that's what you're aiming at, there's plenty of ways to do it.
Although, to Jet's point, like if you're watching some of these First Amendment auditors, it certainly is an education in how to stand up for yourself.
It is, yeah.
It is like you might
true.
find, like maybe you're not comfortable saying certain things, but you might find one of these auditors that says things that resonate with you. And you're like, oh, I can just say that next time I'm in a situation where I'm confronted by one of these tyrants.
Joa does that one all the time, though, the one you're talking about, Captain, the I don't answer questions. Jet, I don't know if you want to continue the discussion. If so, I'm happy to. In fact, I'm curious as to who he would recommend. He says he sits down on Friday nights and watches some of these guys. We know the ones that are around here. Sure. These guys are everywhere. So who are some of the key First Amendment auditors who are, worthy of looking up to? More coming up here. This is Free Talk Live. The number is 603-283-6160. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm William Denslow with the Week in Review. NATO defence ministers have reiterated their commitment to supporting Ukraine. Allies announced deliveries of air defence systems and specialist equipment to help Ukraine's forces get through the winter. South Korea has imposed its first unilateral sanctions against North Korea in 5 years in response to ongoing missile tests. This move came after Pyongyang fired another missile into the Sea of Japan on Friday morning. Chris Gilbert reports.
Seoul says North Korea's ongoing missile tests are destabilizing peace in the region. It's blacklisting more than 30 people and institutions involved in the missile launches. It's also condemning Pyongyang for flying 10 aircraft towards the border between the two countries on Thursday, triggering an automatic deployment of South Korean fighter jets. Seoul says the move violated a pact that bans hostile acts in the border area. North Korea's latest launch on Friday morning flew 650 kilometers before landing in the ocean short of Japanese territory. Pyongyang says that was a response to 10 hours of artillery fire by South Korea.
The committee investigating the January 6th attack on the US Capitol has voted to subpoena former President Donald Trump. The committee says it has enough evidence to push for criminal charges against multiple individuals relating to the attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
In what's expected to be the final January the 6th hearing, the committee laid out how Donald Trump inspired the violence that unfolded on Capitol Hill and how he repeatedly tried to join the crowds at the Capitol, even after they began attacking police officers. The committee's subpoena is a formal summons for Trump to appear in person to testify under oath. However, he's now likely to fight that.
After facing mounting criticism from MPs and slipping opinion polls, the UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has defended her position and her credibility as leader. Truss sacked her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng and U-turned on a decision to cut taxes. Laura Macon-Isherwood has more from London.
On Friday, she recalled her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng from a meeting in the United States and removed him from his post after facing repeated criticism over their mini-budget tax-cutting plans. In a televised address, Liz Truss said she had acted decisively and that she wants to deliver a high-growth economy. Jeremy Hunt, a well-known MP with significant government experience, now becomes the new Chancellor, a man Truss claims shares her ambitions for the country.
And a US jury has recommended life in prison rather than the death penalty for Nicholas Cruz, who was 19 when he returned to a school in Parkland, Florida, that expelled him and opened fire, killing 17 people. From bureaus worldwide, this is Everton.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, the live Saturday show. The phones are open, and you can join us here at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. I want to thank Elephant in the Room for being a supporter.
Oh, we're not supposed to talk about him.
Well, we have to.
No one's supposed to talk about the elephant in the room.
I thought we couldn't talk about him.
It must
But I
be
guess we
addressed.
can.
And he is being, or she, we don't know. The elephant is being addressed because Elephant in the Room is a silver level supporter of our AMPS program. You can join Elephant over at amps.freetalklive.com. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. It is a way for you to help us get the ideas of freedom out to more great radio stations around the U.S. and beyond. You can join it over at amps.freetalklive.com. You get some cool perks like access to the AMP podcast, which has the full radio show minus the recorded ads. You get that on a RSS feed that you can plug into your favorite podcast client through our Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com. Let's go back to your phone calls and thoughts. We're back with Jet. He's on the line in Vegas. You'd called in to kind of laud these First Amendment auditors. We're familiar with at least a couple of them from the New Hampshire area. Our very own co-host Joa from Breaking the Flaw, which you can find his channel on Odyssey. He does great work. In fact, he's been getting back out there a lot recently.
Yeah.
He had some legal issues that had tied him up for a good portion of a year, and now he's now that he's out in Manchester, he's been teaming up with Footloose.
Yeah, that's a great team.
They're living together now, so they're easily able to just travel and go and do various different things. I'm really happy to see a recent video of theirs. They went to a courthouse for years, for more than a decade. The activists here in New Hampshire have been under threat at the courthouses where they will tell you you're not allowed to record outside of the courtroom. You can record inside the courtroom, but if you're out in front of the clerk's office or just in a hallway or something like that, men with guns will converge upon you and try to intimidate you into not recording.
How dare you make a record of what should be public record?
Yeah, and there's like the Supreme Court order that orders this to be banned.
Yeah.
And they went into a court the other day and they just brazenly challenged this in front of a cop who was trying to threaten them, and the cop did absolutely nothing about it when they refused to stop recording in the hall. So I'm really happy to see this has been needing to happen for a decade.
Oh yeah.
But it's like I'm usually on bail conditions or something.
Right.
It seems like I'm on bail conditions. I can't challenge this because if I get arrested, my bail gets revoked and I'm back in jail. So I'm really glad to see some people are finally doing this. So check out Breaking the Flaw. But Jet, who did you recommend, or who would you recommend? Who have you been watching of the First Amendment auditors that you think are doing
who do you like?
A really good job out there?
Well, there's some fun ones, but first I want to mention that when you do this, never do it alone.
A lot of them do it alone, but yeah, if you're brand new, you definitely don't want to go alone. But some of these guys, they are lone wolves and they're good at it.
Yeah,
it's dangerous though.
It is. You're dealing with rabid dogs. The police, they could hurt you. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, they could hurt you, put you in jail, rough you up, do all this kind of thing, and it's your deal to try to figure it out. Anyway,
and if you lose, your phone, either it breaks or they take it in the process, then you have no record of what happened. Whereas if you have someone else there, like they can at least take a video of, the police breaking your phone, for example.
Presuming they also don't get arrested. I mean, there's no perfect solution when you're dealing with psychopaths. But go ahead, Jet.
Okay. The other thing I want to mention is that, and they always mention this too, is the sidewalk is your friend. In other words, if you're on a public sidewalk, you can video anything that you can see with your eye. And if you're in a public building, unless it specifically says a restricted area, you can video anything that you can see with your eye.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And that reminds me of the drunken philosophy, which is the floor is your friend because you can't fall off the floor.
You can fall onto the floor, but no worse.
At Reddit.com, there are a series of these under Bad Cop No Donut.
That's a great page.
Minute auditors, and the ones that are really fun are people like Jay's surreal something or other, and I don't see it on the list. There's no one. Lackluster, James Freeman.
I've heard of James Freeman.
Long Island Audits. I don't like what he does as much. I mean, he's pretty bold and everything, but he seems to get emotionally involved, and that's the thing I would caution against also.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in other words, trying to plead your case, so to speak, rather than just speaking assertively and frankly. A lot of people, but you don't have to show your ID unless you're blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, just calm down. You know, the thing is, if you believe that you're standing on it, then stand on it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's see. Just go to that list under reddit.com/r/badcopnodonut, and you'll see a whole list.
Yeah,
But
you'll
one
be
guy-
surprised if you actually do go and do this. And I agree with your recommendation, Jet. You should go and do it with somebody else. And if you don't have anybody else in your area, you must not live in New Hampshire. So you may want to consider, if you're a liberty-minded person, migrating here to New Hampshire. So then if you want to go out and do this First Amendment auditing, because the more that's happening, the better. Like, it's great that we have at least a couple guys here doing this pretty regularly. It'd be better if we had 10 of them, right? Because you can go to different towns and different bureaucracies and test them out, and then come back 6 months later and test them out again and see if they've gotten better at letting you stand up on your rights and be the press and be the media. But yeah.
So, one of the things that I wanted to point out, while in general, never talk to police is like the rule of thumb, and and any lawyer worth their salt will tell you that too, because you're not going to help your case. At best, you will do nothing.
You're going to help their case when you talk to them.
I will put the caveat in there though, like if you get pulled over, for example, and like as far as I know, this has always been held up in court, but like they're basically within their rights to ask you where you've come from and where you're going, because they might be looking for someone who committed a crime.
Well, they're within their rights to ask, but you are under no obligation to respond to them.
That's what I'm trying to say. That one of the most important things is you don't even have to talk to these people. You don't have to say a word. You
That's
can ignore
not
them.
true. I mean,
Well, there was a Supreme Court decision.
for the majority of us who drive, if you get pulled over and you just like stare straight forward, like that's not going to work out for you.
You do, under most state governments, have some obligation to identify yourself while driving, but that doesn't mean you have to speak. You could just hand them the driver's license. But that said, there was a Supreme Court ruling within the last few years that essentially said that if you're going to invoke your right to remain silent, or if you're going to use your right to remain silent, you, ironically, have to announce the fact that you're going to remain silent. So staying silent may not be the best policy.
It is absolutely absurd.
It's ridiculous.
But I mean, file that in the same place that you put the fact that you do not get treated as if you are innocent until proven guilty.
You don't.
What'd you say there,
I'm
Jet?
talking about on the street. I'm talking about on the street.
Oh.
Now, in your car, what a lot of people do, they have a little package deal. They just push up against their window. You don't have to actually hand your license and all that stuff to them. You just have to show it to them, which means you press it up against the window, and they have to deal with the information that way, not take it from you and steal it.
Once again, that's why I like Captain's line of "I don't answer questions," because at least then you are announcing that you are not going to be cooperating with their questioning. You're announcing that you have a right to remain silent, basically, and you don't have to say anything else. You just come back with that response.
The other fun one, the most fun one I heard was, like I said, I'm not saying, that was at a checkpoint. He goes, are you an American or U.S. citizen? He goes, I'm not saying. He said something else. He goes, I'm not saying. He goes, okay, go on.
Move along. Yep.
Yeah. I think it's also worth pointing out that when it comes to anything about law enforcement, like the usage of language is very particular. I remember pissing off a judge because I would not say that I understood something. I said I comprehended it.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, is a magic word to them. Like you have to say, I understand. And what you're actually saying is, I'm under your standing. You stand on top of me.
That's what they say. That's what the legal
now, in
Eagles
human language, that just means like you have an awareness of a thing, but that's not what they're
in
speaking.
legal land, it means something else. You're right about that. Thank you, Jet, for the call tonight. The number here is 603-283-6160. You can bring up anything you want. I have also done that approach, Peakless, where I've said, "Yeah, I comprehend you," or something like that, and they've never given me any issue with it here in New Hampshire so far. And they still prosecute me, even though I don't say I understand. So it doesn't save you from anything. More coming up.
8 great shopping tips. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks, and I am real impressed with all the ways to save that you are sending. Gabriella writes, I began buying fold-top sandwich bags to use with food items that don't need to be airtight. Even a sandwich at work won't spoil since you'll eat it within 3 or 4 hours. And fold-top bags are much less expensive than those Ziploc-type bags. And she whipped up a tasty ceviche using a can of sardines, much easier to work with than fresh fish, shrimp, or crab meat, she says, and much less expensive. She writes, who would have thought it would be a hit with my picky son? So then she tried canned salmon. You can read her entire post on my blog, where you can share how you are coping. Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 15th through the 18th for the 7th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out in 2022. For 2023, we're going back to where it all started, the weekend before PorcFest. ForkFest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 15th through the 18th. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the ForkFest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 15th through the 18th. forkfest.party. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, live Saturday show. Phones are open. You can join us here at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bullion Max. You can go there and get your gold backs, because Bullion Max will sell you all kinds of great gold and silver products for you to diversify your wealth into. possibly protecting you from the ravages of inflation. At least historically, gold and silver has done a pretty good job at that. So you can go to bullionmax.com, and you don't have to talk to a salesperson. They'll ship your precious metals to you, fully insured, directly to your home. If you go to bullionmax.com/FTL, it'll take you right to their Goldbacks page where you can load up on whatever Goldbacks are available. Now, these things can go fast when they are available, so make sure you get there as soon as possible to grab some Goldbacks. They're beautiful, interchangeable gold money that you can carry in your wallet. I do it. I carry these things in my wallet everywhere I go. I love having the opportunity to pay in Goldbacks.
Oh, it's so great.
Which I can actually do here in New Hampshire at a number of businesses. As I understand it, it's now over 100 businesses across New Hampshire that accept it. Businesses in Utah, I suspect Nevada as well. These are the 3 of the states where Goldbacks have come out. Wyoming was just released within the last 2 weeks, I think. Captain, you picked up the whole Wyoming set.
I got a whole set. And it's the 1.0 too, so if they ever change the artwork, it's the...
You were doing some Goldback, like Johnny Appleseed stuff at a concert last night, weren't you? Do you want to tell that story real quick before we continue with the calls?
Yeah, I went to see my first rock and roll heavy metal concert since COVID. Ironically, it was also the first concert that the headlining act had played since COVID. So
you did play a rock show, but
I did.
You weren't seeing that one,
right?
So
I wasn't a spectator at that one. I was a participant. But at any rate, a 3-band bill, and they were all like local bands. So
this is Manchester, New
Hampshire, local bands. The headliner was Scissor Fight. They're rather popular, and they like nearly got signed in like the mid '90s and that kind of thing. They're a really good band.
Yeah,
and so. Each band went on, and I enjoyed their sets, differently. They were little, slightly different styles, but all fit well together. And at the end of the night, I just sort of went around to all of the band members of each of the bands, and I was like, hey, I used to play in bands for like a couple of decades, and I know what it's like to like not get paid at all, or, not what you're worth and that kind of thing. But I can guarantee you, you've never been paid in gold before until today. And then I would hand them each one gold back. And they were just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like,
wow.
It really was. Yeah,
they are.
And this was just sort of pay it forward. Like, let's introduce Goldbacks to like a whole different target demographic of people, right? Because I'm thinking like people into like stoner metal, doom metal, this sort of hard rock kind of, like they haven't been exposed to Goldbacks yet. So like,
but if they're from New Hampshire, there's a good chance they understand the value of gold.
Not a one of them was like, I don't understand this, or like, no
everyone
thanks.
understands the value of gold. You don't have to learn that gold is valuable. I mean, like, no one's ever been like sitting watching a pirate story and been like, I don't know why they're trying to get these gold like circles. I don't know what's going on. Or like, geez, they keep trying to get all these rubies and diamonds. I don't know why.
Like, I've had occurrences where I try to like leave a tip for like a wait person or a bartender, and I'm like, hey, would you prefer to be tipped in gold? And you hand them a gold back, and they refuse. They're like, no, I don't want this. Like they don't. None of these people were like, oh, no thanks. Right? They were like, "Oh wow, that's amazing! Oh, what, really?" Right? They were like, truly like gifted. You know what I mean? Like they felt the gift that I was trying to give them.
Nicely done, Captain.
And so
did you intend that when you went there, or was it just like a spur of the moment thing? Like, hey, I got some Goldbacks on me.
I mean, I try to carry Goldbacks,
sure.
Not all the time.
But did you go to the concert with the intention of giving away Goldbacks, or was it a spur of the moment?
I thought of it like while I was there.
Okay, yeah.
So, I had, I don't know, 15 of them in my pocket or something like that. And I was just like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? Like, I mean, I had several cocktails and I was feeling pretty good, so Sweet. It might have just been one of those like, hey, man, here, have some gold.
Nicely done. All right, so check out bullionmax.com/FTL. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts. We have Ted on the line listening in Kansas to the radio. He's listening to KGGF there in Coffeyville. Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, this is Ted. When I have been stopped by the police, I cooperate. I show my ID, insurance card if I'm pulled over. And if they continue to question me, I tell them, I said, at this time, officer, I am under the advice of my legal counsel not to answer questions unless my legal counsel is here and present.
Nice.
That usually shuts them up.
Yeah, that's a good one because they like to pick on people who, A, don't know their rights, and B, don't have an attorney. And so you're signaling to them that not only do you know your rights, but you also may have an attorney as well. So, like, you are a dangerous character with whom to mess.
Yeah, because that's who outranks them.
Some of them get kind of sarcastic. They like, you have an attorney? I said, yeah. Yep.
Well,
I got short arms and deep pockets, officer.
And so then they shut up and
I actually have concealed carry insurance, which I pay a yearly fee for, legal counsel.
Oh, interesting. I'm not familiar with this.
But I don't tell them that.
Right.
I just say that I have an attorney, and that pretty much shuts them up. They say this guy.
Well, that's the power they respect.
Yeah.
That's true. They're bullies. They're gonna pick on an easy mark. They want to go after people. They usually go after younger people because they know younger people are less likely to know their rights. They usually go after poorer people because they know poorer people are less likely to be lawyered up in any way, shape, or form, or less likely to acquire a lawyer later on. And so they pick on the people that they think they can get away with it on. Because you have to show yourself as someone who is not going to let that happen.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ted. Anything else you want to share about your experience?
Well, I had a friend in Wichita that was involved in heating and cooling business, and his business was broken into. And across the street, one of our neighbors was renting a business. He was doing auto detailing and stuff. And they called the police. And our friend, he was a black guy, and he had a white girlfriend. And when the police came, they said, oh, we saw these people. They had a pickup, took their tag number. And the cops arrested the white girlfriend. And when I came down there with my friend, I said, why didn't you go after these people? They said, oh, well, she had a warrant. I said, well, she may have a warrant, but here the call was made about a break-in and a robbery. And you're completely ignoring that.
Well, this is one of the reasons why it's a bad idea to identify yourself in circumstances where you are not obligated to, because whenever they ask for people's names, for instance, in a car or just on the streets, again, you do have to check with your local attorneys and laws and such, but in many cases, you're not obligated to identify yourself. If you're in a car, in most places, you're not obligated to show ID as a passenger. Only the driver's obligated to do that. And so they just want to run everybody's names against a database and arrest as many people as possible.
Well, and one thing that's worth finding out about is the difference between whether or not you are being detained versus being under arrest. So, there's free to go, there's detained, and there's under arrest, and those are three distinct categories with different abilities that the police have in those specific things.
Yeah, you're always able to ask that question.
What's the difference between detained and arrested?
It's subtle.
So first and foremost is arrested. They have to have probable cause. At least the last I checked. I'm certainly not a professional in any of this. Sure. This is just putting out the disclaimer. None of this is advice, legal or otherwise.
A detention would be there investigating you to try to find probable cause.
Right. If they have a articulable, reasonable suspicion. Yeah.
Ted, thanks for the call tonight, man. I appreciate hearing from you. The number is 603-283-6160. Crichton is on the line in Kentucky. Go ahead, Crichton.
Hi, guys. I was listening to that, and in my case, that kind of advice would be extremely dangerous.
What advice?
Because I have the advice of climbing up and keeping shut when encountering the police.
Climbing up and keeping shut. Oh, clamming up. I don't think anyone gave that advice tonight. The suggestions, because again, we're not lawyers here, that we had given in the many circumstances that we have employed would be to speak, but to simply say, I do not answer questions. Now, would that have hurt you in some way? I want to hear your story.
Yes.
Why?
And the reason is because I have a security clearance, and it's very valuable in my field of work. And if I should lose it by being arrested and charged with a felony, I could lose my job for that reason alone.
Is this a military security clearance?
It was originally, but they're all the same. But once you come out of the military and you enter into the civilian world, if you work for a defense contractor, that becomes very valuable.
All right, I want you to clarify for me what you mean and why this.
Yeah, I have questions.
Why? Because the average person does not have a security clearance, so they probably don't have the same circumstances to deal with. We'll hear about Crichton's situation here. Hour number 2 is on the way. You can join us as well here on this live Saturday show. The number is 603-283-6160. You can also take control of the airwaves and bring up whatever's on your mind. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm William Denslow with the Week in Review. NATO defence ministers have reiterated their commitment to supporting Ukraine. Allies announced deliveries of air defence systems and specialist equipment to help Ukraine's forces get through the winter. South Korea has imposed its first unilateral sanctions against North Korea in 5 years in response to ongoing missile tests. This move came after Pyongyang fired another missile into the Sea of Japan on Friday morning. Chris Gilbert reports.
Seoul says North Korea's ongoing missile tests are destabilizing peace in the region. It's blacklisting more than 30 people and institutions involved in the missile launches. It's also condemning Pyongyang for flying 10 aircraft towards the border between the two countries on Thursday, triggering an automatic deployment of South Korean fighter jets. Seoul says the move violated a pact that bans hostile acts in the border area. North Korea's latest launch on Friday morning flew 650 kilometers before landing in the ocean short of Japanese territory. Pyongyang says that was a response to 10 hours of artillery fire by South Korea.
The committee investigating the January 6th attack on the US Capitol has voted to subpoena former President Donald Trump. The committee says it has enough evidence to push for criminal charges against multiple individuals relating to the attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
In what's expected to be the final January the 6th hearing, the committee laid out how Donald Trump inspired the violence that unfolded on Capitol Hill, and how he repeatedly tried to join the crowds at the Capitol, even after they began attacking police officers. The committee's subpoena is a formal summons for Trump to appear in person to testify under oath. However, he's now likely to fight that.
After facing mounting criticism from MPs and slipping opinion polls, the UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has defended her position and her credibility as leader. Truss sacked her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng and U-turned on a decision to cut taxes. Laura Macon-Isherwood has more from London.
On Friday, she recalled her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng from a meeting in the United States and removed him from his post after facing repeated criticism over their mini-budget tax-cutting plans. In a televised address, Liz Truss said she had acted decisively and that she wants to deliver a high-growth economy. Jeremy Hunt, a well-known MP with significant government experience, now becomes the new Chancellor, a man Truss claims shares her ambitions for the country.
And a US jury's recommended life in prison rather than the death penalty for Nicholas Cruz, who was 19 when he returned to a school in Parkland, Florida, that expelled him and opened fire, killing 17 people. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Global wildlife populations have fallen by nearly 70% in less than 50 years. That's according to the latest study by the World Wildlife Fund. Its Living Planet report has assessed 5,000 species of birds, amphibians, reptiles and fish worldwide and mapped how those populations have changed over the decades. They're now calling for immediate action to halt what they call a nature and climate crisis. Tanya Steele is the fund's chief executive.
It is a severe warning that we are facing both a climate and a nature catastrophe, and ultimately it's driven by human activity, which has continued at pace in converting so much of the natural world, whether this has been through construction, but actually largely the way in which we're changing the natural world in terms of converting land for food and for agriculture. Importantly, world leaders have been missing in action despite dire warnings over repeated years, and we need them to step forward and put in place an action plan before it is too late.
She says there is a very, very short window for action, and while conceding that the war in Ukraine and other international developments are siphoning away the attention of many world leaders, she says the evidence of the impacts of climate change themselves speak volumes about the need to give the issue immediate focus. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
FSN is an independent source of news for TV, radio and digital networks worldwide. You can find more of our minute-by-minute updates on Twitter. Follow us there at Feature Story. And we have a wealth of audio and video stories from our global news bureaus on Facebook. You can find us there by following Feature Story News. Stay tuned for further updates right here. But for now, that's the latest Feature Story News. William Denzelo reporting.
Gilman's Hardware is a local business with a very special story. Although small and family-owned, the storefront operation has managed to consistently exploit and debase its workers just as if they were members of a giant multinational corporation.
From the moment I started the store 6 years ago, I wanted to make sure that every employee here at Gilman's felt like they were nothing more than a cog in a giant machine, just as if they had worked at one of our larger corporate competitors.
Den Blaker said that despite having only 10 employees and a single location, he's managed to implement a number of unique policies to significantly reduce employee morale, including forbidding sales clerks to sit down during lengthy shifts, reducing their number of days with paid time off, and insisting on humiliating pat-downs during lunch breaks to ensure they never felt like trusted or valued employees.
Other small businesses might have given me benefits or, let me take a day off. But everyone here at Gilman's does their best to treat you like you're a totally replaceable tool for generating profit.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Hey, it is Free Talk Live, the live Saturday edition of the show. If we get a chance, we'll get into central bank digital currencies and the most surveilled cities in the world. But phones are open, and you guys have been participating tonight, which, of course, I always enjoy. It is an open phone show, and the number is 603-283-6160. We're here live on Saturday, 603-283-6160. You can join us and bring up anything you want tonight. It's Ian,
Peakless Mountaineer,
and the Reverend Captain Kickass.
And I mentioned we're live on Saturday. We're also live Sundays and every single day of the week. 7 nights a week. We're here from 7 to 10 at night Eastern Time. You can always grab us online anytime via our archives, our daily digest, the video channel that we have on Odyssey. So many different listening options. You can go to freetalklive.com to find many of those. We had Crichton on the line. He had called in, I think for a different reason, but you were inspired by some of the discussion we've been having with previous callers about people standing up for their rights and refusing to speak with the police. You said, and rather than just refusing to speak, to come back with a standard kind of response of, I don't answer questions, because of the Supreme Court decision that basically said you can't just remain silent anymore. You have to assert that you're going to remain silent.
Right.
So saying I don't answer questions is, in my opinion, the best way to assert that, and yet do not give them anything that they can use to put you in a jail cell. Crichton, you said that wouldn't work for you because of some sort of a security clearance situation. You were just beginning to explain that to us.
Yes, I'm not saying that it wouldn't work. I'm saying that it's dangerous.
Why?
Because I have in my career gotten many jobs because of my security clearance, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I end up in a job that requires a security clearance. But if I were in a job that required a security clearance and I were arrested, my security clearance would be suspended immediately.
Okay, but what makes you think that you would be arrested for standing up for your rights and not talking to the cops? Because generally, the more you talk to the cops, the more likely you are to get arrested for something.
I'm just saying that it depends on the situation. If they decide to arrest you anyway because they don't really understand what's going on, then the result is still the same. I could still lose my job. And
Sure.
they don't know that, and they don't care. But
Of course they don't, yeah.
Anyone who has a job at a defense contractor, like the one I'm looking at getting a job at in Hooksett, New Hampshire,
Mm-hmm.
Would be very wary about joining any of the activist events on the possibility that they could be swept up in a wide kind of a mass arrest or anything like that, because that would
I'd be wary about the moral implications of getting a job with a defense contractor.
Yeah, I knew somebody was going to bring that up.
Well, you are helping murder people, so
I am helping other people effectively destroy other people. I am, and I understand that. But you also got to keep in mind that most of the jobs in a defense contractor are not actually the construction of the weapons themselves.
Well, but if no one worked for these people, then they would have a tough time doing anything, wouldn't they?
Well, the truth is that I make $130,000 a year. And if
you are a well-paid assistant murderer.
I mean, evil does tend to pay pretty well. I mean, can't
you do know that 90% of the people who die from these things are innocent bystanders, right? Or at least they were back when they actually kept track of who died from, say, drone bombing, for example.
Okay. Well, the truth is, I really didn't call in to have the moral debate about whether or not I should work for a defense contractor or not.
But yet here you are.
That I do.
Okay.
The fact is that I do, and I have pretty much my entire adult life since the time I left the United States Marine Corps. I've always been tied to it in some fashion or another.
Does that mean you always have to be?
No.
Okay.
But therein lies the rub. I'm literally calling you guys about advice, because this contractor that I'm looking at is in Hooksett, New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There are at least 3 defense contractors in New Hampshire that I could look at. I'm qualified for. But I'm also qualified for many other things. And I don't know what kind of, mostly in manufacturing and industrial environment.
Okay.
And I don't know what's there. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, if you guys, I'm looking for advice on how I could do that. You guys reasonably say I should get out of this field, and maybe I should, but I don't have a path.
So your expertise is in manufacturing?
My expertise is in manufacturing, yes.
Okay.
And you have experience in weapons, obviously, or at least some sort of industry. There's at least one weapons manufacturer based here in New Hampshire.
There's more than one, I think, yeah.
But there's one that I specifically know of where, I know people who work
Which
there.
one are you thinking of?
The gun manufacturer.
Oh, 6 Hour?
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another one here, too.
Yeah, I feel like there's a second one as well. I don't know which one that is.
My experience is not in the manufacturing of the weapons, but my security clearance is still valuable.
Okay.
Well, as far as
I cannot tell you the difference.
Well, as far as finding a path, I mean, so you do everything that you're used to doing, except you make sure that it's not with a defense contractor. Like, there are plenty of other companies that will value your experience with manufacturing that are not building weapons of war.
I mean, even working for a gun manufacturer, you know they've probably got deals with police departments around the country. So there's no way to totally, like, you know, get the blood off your hands. But the less blood that you can have on your hands, the better. I know that in Keene, there's a place called Samson Manufacturing that does gun accessories. So there's a bunch of manufacturers around here. What I would do is I would head up there to, head to the job sites, the Indeed and Monster and all these places, and look around for the industry that you're looking for. I mean, right now, there's no better time than right now that I've ever seen to find
a
work.
Job, and this is temporary, I assure you.
Yeah, these guys are desperate for help. Every one of these manufacturers has signs out front of their building like, we'll hire you if you can fog a mirror. Please come work for us. If you're experienced, we'll pay you well, that kind of thing.
And this is a temporary circumstance. So, like, if you look at the way that that economics work and the way that economic changes move through a society, like, the first thing that gets hit are valuables, both in land and in stocks. Now, eventually that gets down to products, and eventually after which is everyone's concerned about the inflation, like, that's where the money has hit the products, and then after that it hits the job market. So people start demanding higher and higher wages, and that makes them start looking, okay, well, which jobs do we absolutely need people for? And we haven't really hit that point yet. Like, right now we're still basically in peak job availability. So, like, now's the time to do it.
I'm wondering if the caller could apply his experience to, like, I don't know, something shipyard wise, right? Because, we have ports here in New Hampshire.
That was literally one of my case. Yeah, that was what I was looking at.
Okay.
Granite manufacturing.
Okay.
Yeah, I would also try, if you're still on Facebook, as I understand it, the Free State Project at one time had a very busy jobs board, Free State Project, something or other jobs. Sorry, I don't remember the name of it. There's also, the Free State Project has a Discord server, and there's a lot of people that are active there, and they might be able to point you in one direction or another. So, the best thing you can do is kind of get plugged in as much as you can from afar, and then when you can come up and visit, maybe make the rounds, put in applications, or better yet, set that up in advance, and then come up for an interview at whatever places you can find. And if you put it out there that's what you're looking for to the universe, I think doors are going to open up for you, Crichton. At least that's been the experience that a lot of people have. Anything else you want to share?
No, thank you, guys.
All right, man. Good luck. Appreciate hearing from you tonight. Man. And hey, we were a little bit harsh on you, but you're likely going to come across some of that too. So, I don't know how I would handle that information. I think I would keep it close to my chest.
Handled the reality of it.
Yeah, I think I would keep it close to my chest while I was, getting out here and meeting people about exactly what you currently do, because there are some Free Stater cops, right? Like, there are some of those people here, and I don't know how public they are about that aspect of what they do. And then the argument would be that, well, we'd rather have Free Staters in those positions than total control freaks. So that would be the argument for those people doing those things. Thank you, Crichton, for the call tonight, man. Appreciate it.
Of course, the argument against being that if they didn't have you, then it would be that much more expensive and harder to find.
That is true as well. It's an interesting discussion, and you can join us at 603-283-6160. We've got plenty more Free Talk Live on the way, and you can bring up whatever's on your mind this live Saturday edition.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Inflation, a sidelined labor force, and ever-increasing interest rates. It's the perfect storm for pushing the U.S. economy over the edge. Savvy investors are diversifying into gold and silver with BullionMax.com. You can buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals will ship fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live listeners can now order one of BullionMax's most popular products, the Goldback. Now in stock, but supplies are going fast. To get your Goldbacks, go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to MyMagicMud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. MyMagicMud.com, FTL20.
Do you prefer to listen to Free Talk Live on your schedule on demand? You can find the link to our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com, which features the daily digest of our radio show 7 days a week. Just drop our RSS feed into your favorite podcast client or subscribe to us on the large platforms if you prefer, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, and Stitcher. All the links are at feeds.freetalklive.com. If the daily digests aren't enough for you and you really don't want to miss a moment of Free Talk Live, you can always sign up for our AMPS Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com for just $5 a month, and you'll get the full radio show without recorded commercials. Plus, you'll help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's amps.freetalklive.com to join AMPS, or feeds.freetalklive.com to get our main podcast, or find us on the major podcast platforms. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, the live Saturday show, and you can join us on the radio. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up in less than a week, you can join our very own Mark Edge in the beautiful city of Prague for an upcoming conference, the second annual Free Cities Foundation conference called Liberty in Our Lifetime. It kicks off this Friday. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, and you're going to be in Prague that weekend, you probably should go and grab them with the code FTL20. That'll get you 20% off when you go to lifetimeliberty.com to get your tickets. The event's theme is Parallel Structures for Progress. They're going to explore physical developments and parallel structures emerging in education and finance that offer alternatives for people looking for better ways to learn, educate their children, and invest in the future. And again, Mark Edge, our co-host, is going to be speaking at this conference in Prague, October 21st through the 23rd. Again, the tickets are at lifetimeliberty.com with code FTL20 to save 20%.
I thought the thing expired, the early bird thing.
Early bird discount expired on October 3rd, but that would have been a discount upon which you would then have saved 20%.
So the FTL, okay, thank you.
You can no longer get the early bird discount, but you can still, as I understand
Save
it,
20%.
you can still save 20%
It's
off
a pretty big discount.
The regular ticket price at this point. So let's go back to your calls and thoughts. Dave Ridley is on the line in New Hampshire. Go ahead, Ridley.
Yeah, with regard to what you were talking to about the security clearances, it's a good opportunity to remind people a little bit about what happened to Greg Serby.
To who?
Greg Serby, a Free Stater. In 2010, he took me aside from a meeting I was at and reported to me secretly that the FBI was interrogating him because he had a security clearance. He was a free stater, but he had a security clearance. And they used his security clearance to force him to answer questions. They had
What?
3 FBI agents.
Does having a
pressure is
security
probably-
clearance mean you're obligated to answer police questions?
Yeah, pressure is probably a better word than force.
Okay.
They would have taken his security clearance. They threatened to take his security clearance away and cost him his job if he didn't answer their questions. Does that make sense?
Okay.
According to Greg. And he told me to keep that a secret unless something happened to him. And of course, he died last year, so that's why I publicized.
Didn't they find him in
what he had
in a
told me.
ditch? Like he didn't just die. He didn't just have a heart attack or something. Didn't he get thrown in a ditch or something like that, or in a river?
Well, it was suspicious, right? It was a suspicious death. He lived in the Nashua area, as I understand it, and
And this guy was young, by the way. I'd just like to clarify. I've met
Getting
Greg.
thrown into ditches, mighty suspicious.
Yeah, I've met Greg on a number of occasions. He used to be at all the Liberty Forums and Porcupine Freedom Festivals. He was for a time, he was a well-seen Free State Project participant, and then he disappeared, and they found him at some point later. There was some time where he was just gone, wasn't there?
Yeah, but again, this is something that happened 10 years after the FBI interrogation.
Right.
I don't think there's a connection. I don't know of one. But he did describe to me what happened, and so they met in a Friendly's restaurant, and there were three agents. One of them watched his mouth the whole time he was talking, or watched his face. Another one looked down and took notes, didn't ever look up, and the other one asked the questions. So each person kind of had their own thing, and of course they don't. My understanding is they don't record these things.
No, they don't. In fact, if you were at the trial for our co-host Nobody back when he was known as Rich Paul, when the FBI apparently set him up to be arrested by the local police and then tried to get him to wear a wire into the Keene Activist Center, because he refused to wear the wire, they prosecuted him because they would have dropped his charges had he cooperated with them. They prosecuted him, and that meant they had to actually call the FBI agent on the stand, and he said under oath that it's their policy, FBI agency policy, to not record interviews with suspects, with the people that they're interviewing, and that way it's just the word of the agents on what you said. So there's no actual record.
He told me, and again, it was 10 years passed, and so I didn't remember much of what he told me. By the time it came back up, but he did tell me that, like, for instance, they asked him about taxes. He said, "Are there people in your movement that are refusing to pay taxes?" And I remember him saying, he told them, "Well, I don't like taxes either, right? Is that abnormal?" But I just don't remember any other questions that they asked him. I think it was connected. They may have asked. I think they may have asked him some stuff about the Ed Brown case, and that may have connected him because he did go to some demonstrations where he protested against what was happening to the Browns during the standoff in Plainfield.
The story here from the WMUR, which is one of the major, really the only television station in New Hampshire, says dated March 15th, he was missing as of February 5th. So Greg was missing for many weeks before his body actually turned up. And so that's a pretty suspicious circumstance. I've never heard anyone say that he was suicidal or was, having any kind of thoughts like that. But then again, I don't know a lot of people that were close to him.
So I wanted to...
he was found in by a boat ramp, apparently.
I wanted to point out that with the 3 agents, so what that one that was just looking at his face was probably doing was looking for micro expressions and other signs of evasion or deception.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have the...
Yeah, that sounds...
Yep. So you'll have the person questioning him, you'll have the person, recording the questions and answers, and you'll have the other one saying that's looking to see if he's lying at any point or if there's something that makes him uncomfortable so that they can, put their heads together and go, okay, well, this seemed to be something that made him uncomfortable. We need to go further into that topic.
Ridley, anything else you want to share tonight?
I wish I had more to pass on, but that's what I know.
Yeah, I would love to hear what the people who are close to him actually believe about, how he ended up in this circumstance. Because, again, young man seemed to be relatively pleasant and in good shape. But you never know what's going on in somebody's life.
But let this illustrate for the listeners how dangerous freedom is, particularly from the perception of government.
Yeah.
Right? They see people who want more freedom for individuals to be dangerous to them.
Sure. They've been investigating the Free Staters here since the beginning.
Right. So if you're going to join a bunch of other freedom-loving people in a movement to gather more freedom, there is risk involved.
There will be, especially if you become successful.
Yes.
And it also illustrates the danger of being reliant on the government for your living.
Right.
Like, especially if you're reliant on them for your security clearance in order to make a living. Because, okay, you are officially at that point, in all reasonable ways, a government agent.
Yes.
You are an FBI informant. You are whatever they need to make you at that point. So if you're going to rely on the state when you join a movement that is trying to get free of the state, that does, it puts some real complications into your life.
And what kind of a slave does that make you?
Yeah.
Right? To know that, like, you are afraid of losing your livelihood because of what they might do to you, because your life is so intertwined with them as an organization that they have that power over you. That makes you their slave.
And it lets you know how important the tool of taxation is in terms of control. Because they don't need taxes to keep the government running. They can print money for that.
Thanks.
But they need it to control you.
Ridley, appreciate hearing from you tonight. That's Dave Ridley from RidleyReport.com. You can join us here. The phones are open. The number is 603-283-6160.
I want to do a guitar solo that's all Ridley, 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 Ridley.
You can bring up anything you want here on Free Talk Live. It's the live Saturday edition, 603-283-6160.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm William Denslow with the Week in Review. NATO defence ministers have reiterated their commitment to supporting Ukraine. Allies announced deliveries of air defence systems and specialist equipment to help Ukraine's forces get through the winter. South Korea has imposed its first unilateral sanctions against North Korea in 5 years in response to ongoing missile tests. This move came after Pyongyang fired another missile into the Sea of Japan on Friday morning. Chris Gilbert reports.
Seoul says North Korea's ongoing missile tests are destabilizing peace in the region. It's blacklisting more than 30 people and institutions involved in the missile launches. It's also condemning Pyongyang for flying 10 aircraft towards the border between the two countries on Thursday, triggering an automatic deployment of South Korean fighter jets. Seoul says the move violated a pact that bans hostile acts in the border area. North Korea's latest launch on Friday morning flew 650 kilometers before landing in the ocean short of Japanese territory. Pyongyang says that was a response to 10 hours of artillery fire by South Korea.
The committee investigating the January 6th attack on the US Capitol has voted to subpoena former President Donald Trump. The committee says it has enough evidence to push for criminal charges against multiple individuals relating to the attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
In what's expected to be the final January the 6th hearing, the committee laid out how Donald Trump inspired the violence that unfolded on Capitol Hill and how he repeatedly tried to join the crowds at the Capitol, even after they began attacking police officers. The committee's subpoena is a formal summons for Trump to appear in person to testify under oath. However, he's now likely to fight that.
After facing mounting criticism from MPs and slipping opinion polls, the UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has defended her position and her credibility as leader. Truss sacked her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng and U-turned on a decision to cut taxes. Laura Macon-Isherwood has more from London.
On Friday, she recalled her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng from a meeting in the United States and removed him from his post after facing repeated criticism over their mini-budget tax-cutting plans. In a televised address, Liz Truss said she had acted decisively and that she wants to deliver a high-growth economy. Jeremy Hunt, a well-known MP with significant government experience, now becomes the new Chancellor, a man Truss claims shares her ambitions for the country.
And a US jury's recommended life in prison rather than the death penalty for Nicholas Cruz, who was 19 when he returned to a school in Parkland, Florida, that expelled him and opened fire, killing 17 people. From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Yep, it is Free Talk Live. You can join the show. Come on. You can bring up anything you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, Ian. Oh, sorry about that, Peak. Let's try that again.
You will not silence me. Peakless Mountaineer.
Free Talk Live, my ass.
Is that your name?
Peakless Mountaineer got canceled right in front of me. Sorry, my name's
You
Detective.
never think it's going to happen to you, especially by Ian.
You never know. You never know.
Turns out he was a plant all along.
Evil dictator, you.
By Google.
Look at him exercising his power over others.
The number is 603-283-6160. We're going to go back to your calls and thoughts. Major Payne is on the line in Michigan. Go ahead, Major.
Fakeless, they're coming after you with bulldozers and dynamite.
That's how you get killdozers. Do you want killdozers?
Maybe.
Oh, I remember Killdozer. That was cool. Oh, good God.
What were you calling about?
You got me going. You got your thoughts, and you got me going so many kind of sideways. All right, as far as Captain handing out the gold bikes at that concert, that was cool. A buddy of mine used to run a company he called Global Silvers Investors, and he did pretty good for a few years. Went through a heinous divorce, but one time he was at a restaurant. And he used to carry around little 10-cent pieces, which is a tenth of an ounce, and quarters and full rounds, which is a full ounce, a troy ounce, 33.3 grams, I think. But anyway, he's at this restaurant, and he tries to pay in silver, like a $20 bill with a full round, which is spot value at that point, $32.
Okay.
So a $12 tip. Big doings, right? So the waitress, she doesn't want to accept it. Well, he says, bring it.
Can't say I'm surprised.
Even the manager didn't want to accept it. So
Can't say I'm surprised there either.
And outnumbered by retards.
That's the current status of, the general population of planet Earth, is that a lot of folks have been so indoctrinated by public schooling, by governments, that they don't understand. People would we did a thing where some man on the street type video, guy went around with, I don't know what it was, gold or something.
Mark Dice is his name. He had either like a piece of gold and a piece of chocolate, right? And then he'd offer them to people on the
which
street.
one would you rather have? And they're the chocolate, because they have no idea how much that gold was worth.
No, we don't. Well, the other thing is, I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one here. In your case, Major Payne, maybe these are people who are probably not decision makers at the business. They didn't feel like they could decide to take something that was unusual in payment, even though they may have realized it was silver. They're not the boss, and so even the manager may not have been able to make a decision because he wasn't the owner. So that might have
I'd also like to point out that silver simply doesn't have the currency that gold does. I mean,
but they probably wouldn't have taken an ounce of gold either, because, and one of the reasons why Mark Dice may have had a difficult time finding somebody willing to take an ounce of gold on the street, which would have been worth, a couple $1,000 or $1,000 something bucks or whatever at that point, might be because they didn't believe it. right? Like, oh yeah, sure, you're gonna give me an ounce of gold, right? Like, what are the odds? Some guy's just gonna walk up and hand you an ounce of gold.
And I'd
on
be
the
way
street.
more concerned with what did you put in that chocolate, mister?
Well, that's a good point. And
yeah.
you know, what are the chances that chocolate isn't worth jack? The odds that the ounce of gold is real, there's some chance of
I
that.
like
so you might as well
chocolate. It's
take
got
it,
value.
Right?
Just not as much.
Yeah, you might as well take
it. When I was only 18, I was pumping gas in '78. This woman pulls in, and this car was horrible, and it was ugly. The motor, the oil was beige, but she gave me like $7 silver to pay for her gas. I couldn't pull the 7 greenbacks out of my pocket quick enough
Fast
before
enough.
I got back
Right.
to the till.
Yeah.
And if this manager didn't have enough sense to pull a $20 bill out of his pocket and put that piece of silver in it, he's a damn fool. I'll stand by.
I give you what you're saying there. That is absolutely true.
Well,
and wise people would do that exact thing. And we've seen people do that with crypto, by the way. There used to be a restaurant in Portsmouth that I think they've gone out of business since this happened. But at the time, the restaurant was quote unquote taking cryptocurrency. But some of the waiters would actually intervene, and they would accept your crypto payment with their own personal wallet, and then they would go and they would put cash in the till, so you actually weren't
Smart way to do it.
right. You weren't paying the restaurant. You were actually the waiter was sort of the middleman in that case, but the restaurant would have accepted it. It's just the waiters valued it more, and they just wanted it for themselves, which was cool.
That's wise staff. All right, so do you want to hear some of my couple stories about fun with border guards?
Just one would be good. Go ahead.
All right, well, I don't know if I should tell you the one as a child or the one as an adult because they're both pretty good.
Now pick one.
I learned a lot as the one from a child.
All right, let's hear it.
And I learned a lot as the one as an adult was just damn funny.
Why don't you give us the one as a child, and then you can call later on Beard Talk Live tonight after 10:30 Eastern Time, because these boys are going to be doing episode 9,
All right,
I think.
will regale the captain.
Yeah, and then
beardless,
so
peakless,
you can be a to be continued on this one, Major.
I am many things, but beardless is not one of them.
Let's hear the child one
Today.
first, since that came first chronologically. So, go
anyway,
ahead.
yeah, this is like 70, 72. I'm 10, 12 years old.
All right.
My old man's got a little 2-seater Mercedes sports coupe, right?
Yep.
Thing that's convertible, pop-topped off, little tiny rumble seat in the back. You could haul a skinny blonde in the back and a fat one in the front, right?
Nice.
So we're going to go to Canada for a week. He's got one of them suction cup luggage racks that go on the trunk, and he's been meticulously packing this car for a week. So we're heading across the Canada Bridge up there across the UP, and he'd already been hoorah'd by these boys a couple years before tearing his car apart and whatnot, and he was a lawyer. So he gets up to the bridge, and they start giving him this, we're going to check with you, when you know what you're carrying. You might have bananas and tarantulas and stuff, right? So he says to these guys, he says, all right. He says, you can do what you got to do, but know this, I'm a lawyer. I spent a week packing this car. And when you tear it apart, you're going to put it back together. And that's going to be the way it is. So they went, mumble, grumble, bitch, gripe, and pulled a couple things out just to assert their authority. And we were on our way.
And this was the Canadians, just to clarify? Canadian border?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's still kind of amazing
but
because I've never seen police of any kind slowed down by the very thought of having to put anything back. But I guess that's because I'm not a first-class citizen.
This
like
was
those
also
lawyers.
1972.
Yeah.
But what else?
Yeah.
Was there more to that
stopped
story,
going
like
to
on the way
Canada.
back?
No, we stopped going to Canada about probably 6 years after that because they wanted to charge us either $100 or $150 just to take an air rifle for plinking in camp.
Oh, wow.
across
You
the
can't do
border.
that these days, I bet, at all.
No.
Probably can't take a
You
squirt
can't even
gun.
hardly fart.
So there was no issue with the U.S. security on the way back? It was Canadian security that gave you all the problems?
Yeah, we never got any flack on the way back.
Huh. That's changed too, by the way.
Really?
It's a lot harder to get back in.
I think once we had to pop the lid of the cooler and show them our fish, but that was about it.
Thank you, Major, for the call tonight. Appreciate hearing from you. The number is 603-283-6160. So to hear part 2 of Major Payne's Border Patrol stories.
remembers.
Well, he might be a little more inebriated in a couple hours.
True.
When well, you could prompt him though. When he's probably going to call in, so you can always just
okay
remind
if I
him
remember.
Yeah. This happens, by the way, 10:30 Eastern Time. Beard Talk Live. It's a thing that's been new in the last couple months.
Yeah.
It's internet only,
uncensored.
It is. There's no FCC, so you guys get to pretty much say anything you want to.
We have a very distinct way of answering the phone too that we've developed.
Yeah, you don't even
through
screen
years
the
of
calls.
research.
You don't even screen the calls. You just take the calls.
It's really Richie Rich's idea, but you know.
So head over to video.freetalklive.com, subscribe to our Odyssey channel, and then you can bookmark watch.freetalklive.com. The watch.freetalklive.com is the actual streaming link. That's where the video will be displayed. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be doing some experimental stuff on the air. We're actually going to be on both the Free Talk Live live streams and the LRN.FM streams on audio, and that'll start at 11, so it'll be like a half hour first, just video, and then you'll add in the others a little bit later. So we'll talk more about it at the time. But mark your calendar for 10:30 Eastern Time tonight at watch.freetalklive.com for more Beard Talk Live. We got plenty of Free Talk Live still to come. Phones are open, and you can join us here at 603-283-6160.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Live Saturday show. Continuing here. The number, if you want to join us, it's 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. It's Ian, Peakless Mountaineer, and Captain Kickass in the studio tonight. The phones are always open. You can bring up anything you want. We'll get to, hopefully, CBDCs, the government central bank digital currency. We'll find out what the latest is with that unfortunate development. But first, we're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts. And by the way, you can always join us online anytime you want over at freetalklive.com. Don't forget, we do have our own social media platform that we run on our server. It is a Mastodon-based system. That means it's open source, it's self-hosted, it's federated, so it's connected with other Mastodons all around the world, unless they don't want to connect with us, which is their freedom to do in a federated system, which is pretty cool. And you can sign up over there at social.freetalklive.com. When you join, it will ask you why you want to join, and that is the question that we have to ask to keep the robots and the spammers out. So just, put something in there about Free Talk Live, whatever. That way we know that you heard about it here. And so we'll let you in, and then you can you'll have more freedom to speak there than you do on the centrally controlled big tech, big media platforms. Once again, it's social.freetalklive.com. To the phones, and Tom in Utah. You're on Free Talk Live. Tom.
Hi, Ian. It's Keith. I'm helping Tom out. He's blind because of retaliatory assault. He is a whistleblower who's helped tell the truth about a lot of things, and he's helped save not only people's lives, but he's helped people from going to prison. He's helped people from having their kids taken away by the state. And I wanted to let you know about a case, if we can enlist the help of everybody to go to change.org. I think you can search Ron Makin, M-A-K-I-N. And that's about the title of that website on change.org is Justice for Innocent Ron Makin for Baseless Gasoline Arson Charges.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, he was wrongly accused. He was accused by city fire and police investigators who wrongly accused him of arson, and he was basically charged with 52 counts of attempted homicide. And He did not commit the crime. The miracle, though, is that Tom, who I have on the phone with me, happened to be his neighbor and was able to, he's a scientist, and he's able to find basic evidence that the story of the prosecutors and the police and the fire department was not correct about the evidence.
So are they saying that he set his own house on fire or somebody else's?
It was an apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 52 other residents in the apartment complex in Utah.
Okay, what's that? I think Tom's trying to speak there. Tom, what's that?
His own apartment complex.
I see. So what can you reveal about this, Tom, that our listeners ought to know?
Can we first give the website that'll give a good explanation of it? The easiest website is carpetfire.com.
Okay.
Carpetfire.com. It'll open up to the Meadows Fire, which is the Meadows is the name of the apartment complex in Bountiful, Utah, where Tom is.
All right. So, Tom, what is it that you can share with our audience here that they should know about this situation?
Well, the curiosity was the alleged arsonist, Ron Makin, was literally a half a mile away from the property when the fire erupted.
Okay.
But because he's a handicapped individual with speech difficulties, expression difficulties, and earlier that day, after going to the gas station and a water well, he spilled gasoline on his clothes from a water container that his idiot brother-in-law had given to him. They said he was the arsonist because he simply smelled of gasoline, dry gasoline, by the way, 2 hours old, and the fact that he couldn't explain himself. And the other thing was that the women in this facility are gossip mongers, and they already had hate for this man because he would get after them when they got after his blind or his nearly blind wife. You know, he was simply kind of an irritation with these women in this facility because when he caught them bad-mouthing his wife, you know how they'd get together in little confabs in the foyer and the mezzanine, and they'd talk bad about everybody. You know, if the dog pooped that they had, if the dog pooped out in the lawn, and since she was visually impaired, she wouldn't always know where the poop was, and so they would complain about the poop on the lawn, right? But anyway,
so busybodies, so apartment complex busybodies who are gossiping about their neighbors.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
And the police, after they heard these people, in fact, the very first words out of a woman when the police got here was, "Ron's going to jail." Why? She obviously smelled the gasoline on his pants. But, you know, here's the kicker. If you spread a gallon or a half gallon of gas or a cup of gas into a hallway and stairs, and you spill some on yourself, and then you get at the bottom of the stairs and you reach forward with a hand lighter and you light it, it's going to explode, and there'll be a 4,000-degree wall of flame coming at you. And if you have any current gasoline on your clothes,
it's going to light up.
What's going to happen to you?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And by the way, when you see this website and the video of the fire, you're going to say, are they joking? That's not gasoline. That's a low molecular weight, flammable, or inflammable, if you want to call it that way, because it's invisible flame initially till it starts to burn debris. But it looks like a row of candles down a hallway. I'm talking about birthday cake candles. And the people in the facility were able to walk by the fire. If that was a cup of gasoline spread through 40 feet of hallway, nobody would be able to actually feel comfortable in that hallway at all. And you would have known it because of the flash that occurred.
This seems like a really dedicated, like a really informative website. I'm looking at Meadows Fire.
I've been looking at it this entire time since he mentioned the URL, and it's well documented.
Yeah, there's a lot of information here. Anybody that's interested in this should check out the site meadowsfire.com. But apparently this man was convicted. As I see it here, he was fortunately not sentenced to any serious time in prison, if any at all. But you guys are trying. Is he appealing this decision?
Neither I nor he has any money.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember that statement, you get all the justice you can pay for.
That's true. Yeah.
But I know the judge knew, because we've been publishing this story from the beginning for 4.5 years.
Wow.
So the public has been aware. They got this. In fact, Channel 4 TV, Marcos Ortiz graciously put the story on his show about law, and people got to see Ron walking into this hallway trying to put the fire out. What's really interesting, this gentleman was a former military hero. He was in Kuwait, and he was trained in paramedic skills, trained in public safety. He actually was hired as a security guard, and he was in search and rescue. So when this fire occurred, and he just happened to walk into the building at the very moment the fire alarm sounded, he right away called the 911.
Wow, so he called it in. And I see video on this site which alleges that he knocked on a deaf and blind resident's door and attempted to then extinguish extinguish what remained of the hallway fire at that time. So, I mean, this is not really the acts that you would expect from somebody who was trying to torch a building with people living in it. Would be to
Especially
go and
his own wife and himself.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
This is a classic Richard Newell case where they tried to make the person who actually reported the fire help clear the building, save the residents, get the residents out, and even put out the fire. Then they turn around and charge him for being the arsonist, just like in the Richard Jewell case, the movie.
Wow. Just because they wanted to have somebody to point the finger at, somebody to get the conviction on. These prosecutors, of course, are rewarded for getting a conviction. It doesn't matter whether or not they got the actual right guy or not. Tom and Keith, thanks for calling in. Again, that website, for those that want to look deeply into this, because it's extensive, is meadowsfire.com. You can see the extent of what looks like police corruption, malfeasance of prosecutors, and we barely had a chance to dig into it. You can look as deep as you want there. Thank you again, Tom and Keith, for the call. The number here is 603-283-6160. We got a whole hour to go here. Plenty of time for you to share your thoughts with us on whatever's on your mind on Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm William Denslow with the Week in Review. NATO defence ministers have reiterated their commitment to supporting Ukraine. Allies announced deliveries of air defence systems and specialist equipment to help Ukraine's forces get through the winter. South Korea has imposed its first unilateral sanctions against North Korea in 5 years, in response to ongoing missile tests. This move came after Pyongyang fired another missile into the Sea of Japan on Friday morning. Chris Gilbert reports.
Seoul says North Korea's ongoing missile tests are destabilizing peace in the region. It's blacklisting more than 30 people and institutions involved in the missile launches. It's also condemning Pyongyang for flying 10 aircraft towards the border between the two countries on Thursday, triggering an automatic deployment of South Korean fighter jets. Seoul says the move violated a pact that bans hostile acts in the border area. North Korea's latest launch on Friday morning flew 650 kilometers before landing in the ocean short of Japanese territory. Pyongyang says that was a response to 10 hours of artillery fire by South Korea.
The committee investigating the January 6th attack on the US Capitol has voted to subpoena former President Donald Trump. The The committee says it has enough evidence to push for criminal charges against multiple individuals relating to the attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
In what's expected to be the final January the 6th hearing, the committee laid out how Donald Trump inspired the violence that unfolded on Capitol Hill, and how he repeatedly tried to join the crowds at the Capitol, even after they began attacking police officers. The committee's subpoena is a formal summons for Trump to appear in person to testify under oath. However, he's now likely to fight that.
After facing mounting criticism from MPs and slipping opinion polls, the UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has defended her position and her credibility as leader. Truss sacked her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng and U-turned on a decision to cut taxes. Laura Macon-Isherwood has more from London.
On Friday, she recalled her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng from a meeting in the United States and removed him from his post after facing repeated criticism over their mini-budget tax-cutting plans. In a televised address, Liz Truss said she had acted decisively and that she wants to deliver a high-growth economy. Jeremy Hunt, a well-known MP with significant government experience, now becomes the new Chancellor, a man Truss claims shares her ambitions for the country.
And a US jury's recommended life in prison rather than the death penalty for Nicholas Cruz, who was 19 when he returned to a school in Parkland, Florida, that expelled him and opened fire, killing 17 people. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Global wildlife populations have fallen by nearly 70% in less than 50 years. That's according to the latest study by the World Wildlife Fund. Its Living Planet report has assessed 5,000 species of birds, amphibians, reptiles and fish worldwide and mapped how those populations have changed over the decades. They're now calling for immediate action to halt what they call a nature and climate crisis. Tanya Steele is the fund's chief executive.
It is a severe warning that we are facing both a climate and a nature catastrophe. And ultimately, it's driven by human activity, which has continued at pace in converting so much of the natural world, whether this has been through construction, but actually largely the way in which we're changing the natural world in terms of converting land for food and for agriculture. Importantly, world leaders have been missing in action despite dire warnings over repeated years, and we need them to step forward and put in place an action plan before it is too late.
She says there is a very, very short window for action, and while conceding that the war in Ukraine and other international developments are siphoning away the attention of many world leaders, she says the evidence of the impacts of climate change themselves speak volumes about the need to give the issue immediate focus. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
FSN is an independent source of news for TV, radio and digital networks worldwide. You can find more of our minute-by-minute updates on Twitter. Follow us there at Feature Story. And we have a wealth of audio and video stories from our global news bureaus on Facebook. You can find us there by following Feature Story News. Stay tuned for further updates right here. But for now, that's the latest Feature Story News. William Denzelo reporting.
If you're a parent, chances are you know all about the Spooky Truth books, with subjects ranging from shadowy fraternal organizations to mind-controlling TV shows. Kids can't get enough of this series of short, scary children's novels.
And Spooky Truth author K.L. Graves is joining us this morning. Thanks for having me.
Now, my kids just love these books. In just 4 years, you put out 25 books. It came from Tower 7, Curse of the Chemtrails, The Zionist Who Cried Holocaust.
Now, this stuff has really been catching on. Over 40 million copies sold, so many bestsellers out there.
I've been thrilled. Before this series, I was self-publishing pamphlets and handing them out on the train. Now I get emails from teachers and parents all the time telling me that my books are all their kids can talk about.
Oh, well, it's true. My son used to hate to read. Now he's holed up in the basement with these Spooky Truth books all day and night. Says he never watches TV, doesn't even want tap water anymore. He just loves reading so much.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour here. It's the live Saturday show. And the number, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's
888-203-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian,
Beagless Mountaineer,
and the Reverend Captain Kickass.
And of course, you can join us online anytime you want. Just
join
head over
us
to freetalklive.com. There's some news that we can get to here. We've been barraged with phone calls.
Become part of the Rebel Alliance.
And that is a good thing, actually. You know that now that you bring that up
for last week, right?
Yeah, it was dead last week. It's weird. You never know what's gonna, when people are gonna call or whatever. But since you bring up the Rebel Alliance thing, Captain, did you guys see the image of this Zelensky character wearing join the dark side T-shirt?
No.
Oh my God.
You didn't see,
I
this?
thought you were going to talk about how they were advertising let's see, Mark Hamill got involved in the drone program, and they were advertising with an X-wing that was half blue and half yellow. And
Mark Hamill joined the dark side?
Yes, he did.
So here is a T-shirt. I'm showing you guys in the studio, and we can describe it. This is a shirt that Zelensky was photographed wearing, and it says, "Come to the dark side." The D and the A in the words "dark side" are colored the Ukrainian colors.
Flag colors, yellow and blue.
It's got imagery of what looks like some badass soldiers in kind of Star Wars get-ups. You've got it looks like a tank in the background, some sort of armored personnel carrier. There's X-Wing fighters flying through the air. There's TIE fighters in the air as well. And at the very bottom, there's what looks like just sort of a normal astronaut suit that's sort of in the ground.
Right, yeah.
And it says beneath that, "Dominate or die." And apparently this is Zelensky, and he's wearing it in this image, which, maybe it's faked or whatever, but he's in front of a green screen in one of his little photo shoots that he has. Kind of weird, I mean, why would you...
It used to be a joke. How do you know when you're the baddies, right? You have all the coolest stuff, right? Or the best stuff, or the most evil-looking stuff.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's not a joke. It's true. You're the baddies when you're the Empire.
And here he is saying, "Come to the dark side." Why would you just they're just throwing it in your face at this point.
Yeah, they are. So I mean, this is actually a topic of heated debate among conspiracy theorists of why do they always have to brag about this stuff? And some people think that it is just a matter of see, hubris. I can get away with this. Yeah. Trolling. You can't stop me.
They're trolling everybody else.
And other people believe that they actually have to get your permission on an unconscious level in order to get away with as much as they do. And I can see both of
theories
those.
Are interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they both make a certain amount of sense to me. I mean, certainly they get away with what they get away with because we do not push back. And I mean, you see what happens when we actually push back. I mean, look at what happened with PayPal. They got pushed so far back that not only did they undo the $2,500 for saying a thing that we disagree with, but they also pretended it was an accident.
Oops, that's sorry, true. Our bad. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, I think it's more of the magic glowing box, right? They put something on the magic glowing box. They say it in a specific way. They repeat it a number of times, and then they go out and act as if that's what actually happened. That's sort of their black magic, their voodoo, if you will, their power over you. So in that extent, it's more of I think an intentional thing, but they have to be ahead of the curve with regards to that, instead of being sort of behind the curve, having to get your permit on a subconscious level. I think it's more of they need to project that it's okay for them to get away with it first before they actually do the getting away with it.
Gotcha.
If you want to join the show, the number is 603-283-6160. As a result of this whole Ukraine-Russia situation we've been discussing over the last few months, what has been going on with the gas supply to Europe, and things are not looking good.
You mean the money laundering operation?
What do you mean by that?
Well, isn't that the other conspiracy theory is that all the money that's coming from the U.S. going over to the Ukraine, it's just a money laundering scam?
Well, money laundering would mean that you would be taking the proceeds of illegal activities and making it legal. So government would never charge itself with anything like that. So what they're doing is legal. They're taking your money from you, taxpayers, and they're sending it to their cronies and their buddies in Ukraine, and they just do whatever they want with it. So I don't know if that's exactly money laundering.
So it's
that's just stealing.
So on the other side of this is what's called embezzlement. So like it's the same process as money laundering, only on the other side. So like it's legal when they hand them the, quadrillion or however much dollars they give them. But then Zelensky like hands 90% of it out to his friends. That's embezzlement.
But isn't embezzlement when you're taking money that isn't supposed to be yours? So, like, if you're an accountant or something at a business and you're dealing with $1 million and you manage to shuffle 100,000 of it over to your own account without permission.
That's what I thought.
That's embezzlement.
Yes.
In this case, Zelensky has full control and permission over these billions of dollars, and he can do whatever he wants with it.
He is still publicly expected to spend that money on fighting Russia. So if he gives that money to something that isn't fighting Russia, that is still embezzlement.
I bet you a lot of those people that are supporting Ukraine would be happy to just let him do anything he wanted with it because they just love Zelensky and he can do no wrong as far as these people. But I get your point.
Well, no, I think that if it comes out that 90% of this or whatever is not going to fighting Russia, then they will still be a little bit less happy about sending the next 10, 12 trillion.
But if it turns out that Zelensky's been snorting cocaine off of hookers' rear ends with this money, there's still going to be a bunch of people who say, he needs his time off, and we have to pay. We have to pay for it because
he's got to have recreation too.
Yeah, he's under a lot of stress. It's
sure,
okay
for the first 40% of it. Sure. But like at some point, handing it over to your friends that aren't helping you win a war against Russia, because of course you're not actually trying to win a war against Russia, just trying to carry on a war against Russia.
Well, all right, so let's just say that, quote, the people, unquote, got tired of it, right? Like, okay, we don't want any more money going to the Ukraine or anywhere else for that matter, right? And they all go, okay, stop. What's going to happen?
The politicians will do whatever they want, which is continue to send money to Ukraine because they know that people aren't going to be able to do anything about it unless they diversify their value that they've created, take it out of the dollar or the euro or whatever it is that's being sent there, and put it into things like gold, silver, or cryptocurrency, some other alternatives that the government cannot easily access. That's really the only thing you can do personally because begging politicians is not going to change this likely.
Well, the last time that I saw a widespread outbreak of fiscal responsibility, I woke up.
I was going to say, the last time?
Yeah.
Was there a first time?
All right, let's continue here.
What are your pleasant dreams about?
Sarah is on the line. Not this girl. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Speaking of fiscal irresponsibility.
Go ahead.
Yes, I've heard that in the Carolinas, those states, they have a big party a night before the election day, and they camp out to be the first one to charge into the polling place and vote.
Boy, what a stupid thing to camp out for.
Yeah,
truly.
I mean, I have been a critic of camped out fans for things in the past, but
all the ridiculous things to camp out in line for.
That is the worst. I mean, there could be nothing
like
more
a
lame.
movie or a phone. I mean, it's a terrible idea, but I can at least understand why you would do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, but see, Miss Obama, like Mrs. Obama was part of this. They had these when she was the wife.
Sounds like quite a photo op.
They have speakers, they have music, they bring some food, and they get all hyped up, and then they swing out their sleeping
Well,
bags.
if you're going to have a religious ceremony, then get into it, you know?
This is just the attempt of politicians to sort of rock starize themselves,
I
right?
can't even believe
They want
this.
to be part of the entertainment class.
I'm going to have to verify. I mean, Sarah is normally right about these news stories. Like whatever she calls in about, there's probably something to back this up. And man, this
secret underground socialist culture.
This turns my stomach to find this out. Thank you for the call tonight, Sarah. Of course, she thinks it's cool.
Oh, of course she does.
The number 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power, but there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and we're here to take your calls about whatever's on your mind on this live Saturday episode. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. The Ballad of the Crypto 6 documentary film is in production. There's been a trailer made for it that's really interesting. It's about 9 minutes long. You can see it over at Ballad of the Crypto 6 with the numeral 6.com. There's an Indiegogo set up, and within the last 24 hours, somebody has become one of the executive producer elites on this Indiegogo. So they took the maximum level of support.
That's awesome.
Which is amazing. Yeah, I certainly didn't expect that. Definitely appreciate to whoever that person is. It doesn't say on the site who it was.
We'll find out eventually, though, right?
Yeah.
Anonymous donor, you rock.
Presumably their name's going to be on the production, of this movie if it does happen. They are trying to raise a fairly large sum because it's not cheap to make a documentary film. It's an independent documentary crew. They want to do a movie about the Crypto 6, which of course some of us were caught up in an FBI raid.
And remember, the second man is always the most important in a movement. So we've got the first man now, the first producer. So, get on it. You want to be the second producer, get on it.
There you go. March 2021, the FBI raided our studios. They arrested multiple co-hosts and some of our friends. I'm one of the people that is facing, basically the rest of my life in prison for victimless so-called crimes involving Bitcoin. If you want to see a movie made about this, they've got an Indiegogo with perks that go from T-shirts to possibly even hosting Free Talk Live, having dinner with your favorite hosts. You can go to Ballad of the Crypto 6 with the numeral6.com to watch the trailer and get involved in the production process. Once again, that's Ballad of the Crypto 6 with the numeral6.com. So, speaking of numbers, the numbers are not looking so good for the European Union this wintertime. We've been talking about how the Russian natural gas has been essentially cut off. First, Russia
It's all a matter of perspective. I mean, if you're an undertaker in Europe, now is a great time for you. This is going to be an amazing winter.
Big season. Yeah.
You can triple your prices this winter, man. You are going to be stocked.
Well, already people's gas and electric bills have been tripling in price, at least in many cases, sometimes 5, 6, 10x or more. And that's making business very, very hard to handle. And this is as cold temperatures are starting to set in. An early set of numbers out of Germany, where they've been trying to cut back on energy usage, determined that in an early cold snap this year, compared to previous
no
years,
one's doing anything.
Compared to previous years, Germans are increasing their energy use. So they're supposed to be cutting back by 10 to 15%. Instead, they're higher than the average over the last 5 years by 15%.
You think people are just feeling colder because they know the prices are coming?
According to ZeroHedge.com, things are now getting desperate in Europe. The continent's energy crisis is so dire that Poland and Germany are now circling a liquefied natural gas project off the coast of Senegal, one that is months away from even producing anything. The African field, which is projected to contain about 15 trillion cubic feet of gas, and that is close to half the total volume of liquefied natural gas used in the U.S. in 2021, is only 80% complete and won't be ready to produce until the end of next year. But now that Russia has halted natural gas exports to Europe, the EU is thirsty. The Kremlin announced it would keep the gas taps shut off until the collective West lifted sanctions against the country. That means that 40% of EU natural gas supply is now offline indefinitely. There's one problem. Replacing 40% of the natural gas supply won't happen overnight. Right. The European Commission estimates a total cost of 210 billion euros into infrastructure supporting new gas supplies, including new liquefied natural gas import terminals to eliminate the continent's energy dependence on Russia. And even these aggressive investments won't allow Europe to fully replace Russian energy supplies until 2027.
I have a potential. That's a long time. I have a potential solution. They could all just get together and snuggle.
That will help. There's no doubt about that. If you've got some people to snuggle with this winter,
come on, Germans, get cuddly.
Yeah.
One of our listeners made a meme of me, and it says something I said at some point. I don't even remember saying it, but says the revolution is only one hug away. Right.
I like that.
Yeah, I like it too.
It's nice.
And so I was thinking of that when I thought, they could just get together and snuggle.
It will help, whether you got a dog or another person or whatever you can snuggle with at night. And if you're in the European Union, you're going to need that.
I mean,
but it is practical.
This is a language that has no word for fluffy. I mean,
It's a practical solution. It's definitely achievable, right? It's time-based. They can do it all winter long.
You're going to have to move in with people. You know, if you're living on your own in the European Union, you're going to have to find roommates. You're going to have to move back in with family.
Established community? Wow, weird.
Yeah, you're going to have to. It's going to be a survive. That's how you're going to survive this, maybe.
Well, and it's getting bad enough that the Greens in Germany are endorsing nuclear power
I've seen
again.
it. Even Greta Thunberg apparently has changed her mind about nuclear power. All of a sudden, now that she wants to keep
all the German environmentalists are like, yeah, okay, go ahead. I mean, I know that we have been pathologically against nuclear power in the entire world.
But now that it might get cold.
Yeah. Well, France, I believe, has been in support of nuclear power for some time. They actually have nuclear facilities there.
Mother Nature changes these bastards' politics. That's amazing.
No, well, and I mean, it's not like this is actually working. Like, what this actually does is, okay, you're just making India and China buy a bunch of Russia's oil, then sell it to you at a higher price.
Right, yeah, that's what's happening.
You are still buying oil from Russia.
Right.
You're just cutting in India and China.
Yeah, you've put several middlemen in between.
Yeah.
More middlemen and more time, because it takes time to send the product to China first
and
then
a higher
put it
price.
on ships and then ship it through the Suez Canal, presumably all the way over to Europe, and then load it onto whatever trucks or platforms that you do from there. So that's really expensive.
And everybody takes a chunk of profit along the line, so it raises the price because they all got to pay each other.
Well, and so Zero Hedge makes an interesting conclusion here. They add some details, and that is that over the past 10 years, the United States' natural gas production has risen over 50%. They say that now today America makes more natural gas than any other country, and as the U.S. exports more LNG, their gas markets domestically are going to be increasingly linked to international prices. That's why U.S. natural gas now trades at the highest level since 2008 at over $12 per 1,000 cubic feet. And guess what's happening to our power bills as a result of that?
Going up.
Everything's going up. And so,
I mean, basically what this entire move has done is target the American and European economy for destruction. I mean, that's what happens when you put these sanctions on. People can't afford any of this, which, I mean,
prices go
up. We're already going through a global financial meltdown. Let's make sure to pile on to that.
Well,
with
we're
energy
already having the
costs.
supply issues, right? Supply chain issues. We've got inflation is one factor in why prices are going up. Because remember, inflation is an increase in the money supply. Prices tend to go up as a result. You've got the supply chain issues. We're constricting the amount of supply, so prices can go up because of that too. And now the price of energy is going to go up. Well, that's all factored into product cost.
Well, and you can just hold off on being warm, right? That's a flexible cost.
That's
right?
literally what the European Union is telling its people. It's like, okay, well, you're just going to have to be cold to help Ukraine.
More snuggling is in their future.
There's more coming up here on
Let's hope.
What this is all going to look like in the next coming months. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm William Denslow with the Week in Review. NATO defence ministers have reiterated their commitment to supporting Ukraine. Allies announced deliveries of air defence systems and specialist equipment to help Ukraine's forces get through the winter. South Korea has imposed its first unilateral sanctions against North Korea in 5 years in response to ongoing missile tests. This move came after Pyongyang fired another missile into the Sea of Japan on Friday morning. Chris Gilbert reports.
Seoul says North Korea's ongoing missile tests are destabilizing peace in the region. It's blacklisting more than 30 people and institutions involved in the missile launches. It's also condemning Pyongyang for flying 10 aircraft towards the border between the two countries on Thursday, triggering an automatic deployment of South Korean fighter jets. Seoul says the move violated a pact that bans hostile acts in the border area. North Korea's latest launch on Friday morning flew 650 kilometers before landing in the ocean short of Japanese territory. Pyongyang says that was a response to 10 hours of artillery fire by South Korea.
The committee investigating the January 6th attack on the US Capitol has voted to subpoena former President Donald Trump. The committee says it has enough evidence to push for criminal charges against multiple individuals relating to the attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
In what's expected to be the final January the 6th hearing, the committee laid out how Donald Trump inspired the violence that unfolded on Capitol Hill, and how he repeatedly tried to join the crowds at the Capitol, even after they began attacking police officers. The committee's subpoena is a formal summons for Trump to appear in person to testify under oath. However, he's now likely to fight that.
After facing mounting criticism from MPs and slipping opinion polls, the UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has defended her position and her credibility as leader. Truss sacked her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng and U-turned on a decision to cut taxes. Laura Macon-Isherwood has more from London.
On Friday, she recalled her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng from a meeting in the United States and removed him from his post after facing repeated criticism over their mini-budget tax-cutting plans. In a televised address, Liz Truss said she had acted decisively and that she wants to deliver a high-growth economy. Jeremy Hunt, a well-known MP with significant government experience, now becomes the new Chancellor, a man Truss claims shares her ambitions for the country.
And a US jury's recommended life in prison rather than the death penalty for Nicholas Cruz, who was 19 when he returned to a school in Parkland, Florida that expelled him and opened fire, killing 17 people. From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You may join us here. Number 603-283-6160. In the studio, you've got Ian.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And I have no idea about anything regarding Camp Lejeune.
Indeed, but there's a way you can learn about that.
There is. Also, I'm the captain.
603-283-6160. The phones are open. You can bring up anything. We were talking about the situation in Europe that is lesser of a situation here in the U.S., but still is going to cause problems, I think, for people. It already is hitting our power bills
I was
here.
going to say, have you guys gotten the letter? I got the letter from my electric company, and it's like, oh, yeah, rates are going to double.
Rates already did double. What, do you not use Eversource?
No, I have.
That's why.
Yeah,
they already doubled for us.
But it's the same. It's the same thing. It's just and I got this letter like a month ago. So
yeah. Our power bill here went up in August, and it went. The supply rates doubled.
Yeah.
So the bill itself hasn't doubled because there's supply and then there's delivery.
Right.
Delivery is still the same. Supply is doubled. So it's like up 30% basically, or 33%.
And it's going to get worse as winter comes in.
Good chance of it, especially if the liquefied natural gas is going up in price, and that's what they're saying is going to happen here because U.S. production. According to ZeroHedge.com, America makes more natural gas than any other country, and that's been increasing over the last 10 years, while European Union is desperate for gas because they're not getting it from Russia. Now, they could.
Right.
If the European Union wanted to say, we're done with this whole Ukraine thing. We're sorry, Russia. We really would like to be warm this winter. We'll just go ahead and exit this Ukraine situation. We'll undo the sanctions against you and then ask very nicely for you to turn the gas pipe back on of Nord Stream 1. Of course, somebody bombed Nord Stream 2. And this point about America being the top liquefied natural gas seller on the planet makes me wonder, could the United States federal government have been behind the Nord Stream 2 pipeline bombing to ensure that Europe has a difficult time this winter and guarantee some business to be sent over to the U.S.?
Well, I guarantee you, if it wasn't the U.S., it was one of the U.S.'s allies.
The easiest way to increase your sales is to decrease your competitors' ability to do their sales.
Indeed. So I don't know. Maybe that's what happened. It also is suspicious that Joe Biden said in February of this year that if Russia invades Ukraine, that they would take out the Nord Stream 2 pipeline somehow.
And wouldn't you know, they invaded Ukraine, and someone took out Nord Stream 2.
I mean, maybe you could connect one to the other. I don't know.
It's a nice pipeline you got here. It'd be a shame if something would have happened to it.
Yeah.
One thing's for certain, he did not sniff the Nord Stream 2 line.
Are you sure?
Well, or at least that wasn't the cause of the breaking.
I mean, like, I know they call ships by female names. And given that Nord Stream 2 was only a few years old, like, you never know.
It's in his wheelhouse, in his age range.
All right, so that's basically the story. Things are not looking good there in the European Union. Central bank digital currencies could be making matters worse, though, economically for people. And Peakless Mountain, yeah, I mean, definitely. Because they're they're going to allow the governments of the world.
Their whole point of existence is to, like, make people's lives worse.
I gotta say, like, it is worth reiterating that there are really two concerns in the world that are worth paying a significant amount of attention to. One is we are on the edge of nuclear oblivion right now, so there's that.
Yeah, it's nothing new.
And the other is the central bank digital currency. Because, I mean, if you think they have control over your life now, just you wait.
So what's the news?
Well, let's see here. So this is from Yahoo.com. Or, sorry, Yahoo.com.
I believe it's pronounced
Not the
Yahoo.
delicious chocolate milk drink.
I believe it's pronounced Yahoo.
Yes, Yahoo. Groundbreaking SWIFT innovation paves way for the use of central bank digital currencies and tokenized assets. And that's one that we really don't cover much, is the tokenized asset side of this, which is, they call it the Web3. But the idea is that there will be a blockchain with every object in the physical world encoded onto it, so that they can keep track of every object. Okay, this person ordered this thing on Amazon on this day. We'll put that into a permanent record.
Well,
okay,
isn't that what the
that got
blockchain-
delivered. We will put that into a permanent record.
Wait. Isn't that what the blockchain is supposed to do, to replace the existing bureaucracy, is become the official record of things?
Well, and
property, titles, that kind of thing.
And that's the thing. So blockchain is not the whole technology.
Right.
So the whole the difference is a distributed ledger is the proper term for it. So there's a big difference between keeping a record on everyone's computer and keeping a record on certain computers.
Okay. All right. I guess
so. Having all of this, and that's one of the things that they've definitely used cryptocurrency for, is as far as the user interface side of their central bank digital currency, because they've already released like the beta test version of this stuff, and as far as the user interface side of it, it is a perfect replica of cryptocurrency. It's just that on the back end of it, instead of it having this distributed network that anyone can check on and anyone can look at and is basically impossible to alter.
It's a centralized, closed system that is a black box.
Exactly.
Where they get to control everything and know everything about you, freeze your account if they want to, take all the funds out of it if they want to.
Yeah, so there's what they call the bail-in, which they did in Greece and Turkey, and I think
a bail-in as opposed to a bailout.
Yeah, exactly. So a bail-in is where you've got you've got money in an account in a bank. I mean, that's what we think of this as, right? Is I have money in a bank. Now, that's not real. It's how we think of it, but that's not the truth.
Right.
The truth is the bank has an account that has your name on it.
Yes.
But it's their account.
Correct.
If they decide that it's a different number, then it's a different number. So in countries that aren't the US, so they actually have to like get the money for their stuff somewhere some of the time, because they're not the global reserve currency. So there's actually an effect when they print too much money. So one of the things that they can do to save themselves at a certain point is just steal a certain amount from the people who have their money in bank accounts.
Oh, interesting. I've never heard the term bail in. Normally I hear that called a haircut.
Haircut's weird. Like any loss whatsoever is considered a haircut. So like if I invested in that stock at 100 and I had to sell it at 80, so I took quite a haircut on that one.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But when it comes to banks, the term haircut is usually used to describe when a government comes into the banking system and says, all right, 10% right off the top. And every account loses 10% of whatever they had in it, and it goes into the government's coffers. So that is what you're describing as a bail-in.
Yeah. So now you can do it that way, or you can be like, okay, well, only the accounts over $50,000.
Sure, that way it's
10%
only the rich.
of those, or whatever have you. So not only will a central bank digital currency make that unbelievably easy.
Right, it'll be a button press.
But there's all sorts of wacky stuff that they can pull on you once they've got this in their centralized system. So one of the things that they are almost certainly going to do very quickly after they implement this, if it succeeds, is that they will basically put a reverse interest on your money. Or they will only allow it to be...
Reverse interest, meaning you would pay
Meaning
them?
like you lose 10% if you leave this here for a year.
That's a taxation. That's not reverse interest. They can call it whatever they want.
Well,
and the reason they would do that is...
to make you spend it.
Well, if they're increasing, and if inflation's going up, there's already going to be a natural incentive to not hold on to that money, right?
Well, and that's the thing, that they can do these as manipulations depending on the circumstances.
Right, the ability to switch things on and off for individuals or organizations is where the fear comes in. Listen to this. Imagine a world where everything about you is on record. A world where every trace of your existence is on a computer, a world which could be easily erased. This is the synopsis or the tagline for the movie The Net from 1995, starring Sandra Bullock. Yeah.
And it's real
they
in
did
China.
all this.
That's real in China right now with the social credit scores.
Yeah.
There's more coming up here, and that's what they want to bring here to the U.S.
Yes, they do.
And the CBDC can be a big part of that. There's more coming up. Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Never, ever send a follow-up email asking, "Did you get my email?" Email 101. If it didn't bounce back undeliverable, it got where you sent it. And avoid transmedia pestering, like calling to ask, did you get my email? Or emailing to say, I left you a voicemail. If your emails and voicemails aren't being acknowledged, your problem isn't technology, it's technique. Is your message concise and understandable? Have you boiled it down to seem as relevant as possible to the recipient? In other words, is it the opposite of spam or junk mail? All of this really matters if you're a job seeker. But even if you're not, with money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio is great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Moments remain. Enough time for you. If you join us now, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up in about 45 minutes from now at 10:30 Eastern Time, you can join Captain Kickass and Peakless Mountaineer and Nobody, our other co-host, who will be joining in for Beard Talk Live. Episode 9 is happening at 10:30 Eastern. That will be tonight only on the internet. If you're a radio listener, do make a point of going to watch.freetalklive.com, and you can bookmark that page. That is our live streaming page on Odyssey. Odyssey is a great platform that's actually pro-liberty. They care about freedom over there, and so it's great to be broadcasting on Odyssey. You can follow our channel there, which is at video.freetalklive.com. So video.freetalklive.com gets you to our channel page. You can hit the subscribe button. Watch.freetalklive.com will take you right to the streaming video page. If you are unable to watch it on the video streaming platform, tonight after 11 p.m. Eastern, we should be going live on our audio streams at freetalklive.com and lrn.fm. We're going to do something a little bit different tonight with the show. From an experimental perspective, I've got some tweaking that I need to do in the studio.
We got to test some theories.
Things have to be tested, yes. And so Beard Talk Live's a good time for that.
And why not do that with a bunch of beardos?
Indeed. So again, 10:30 Eastern Time tonight. Look forward to that. Meanwhile, we got Daniel on the line in Virginia, listening online. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hello, everyone. I've been listening to Free Talk Live for a long time since Ian was in Florida.
That is a long time.
Whoa.
Yeah. I originally started listening on FTA satellite, and
wow.
I wanted to say, you asked me on the phone, I also enjoy listening on the satellite feed, so they're worth having. There are people that listen to those.
Thank you. I appreciate knowing that you're out there doing that. He's referring to our free-to-air. That was what FTA stood for, which means that you can listen for free. It's not like a subscription service.
Right.
Just as long as you have the equipment, and it's cheap equipment. As long as you have the dish and the receiver, which like you can probably get for less than a couple $100. You can listen to our show and LRN.FM's content there around the clock over free-to-air satellite in both North America, Central America, and Sub-Saharan Africa. We got satellite signals in all of those places. So glad to know that works out for you, Daniel. What were you calling about tonight?
All the talk about the Nord Stream pipeline and natural gas and such. I'm actually, weird to say this now because change of life, but I'm a environmental scientist by degree, but before that, I I was interested in natural gas and things, and I stumbled across what would be considered biomethane. So I'm 35 years old. Could be cow farts.
Pig farts.
And I'm 35
or rotten
years
garbage.
old, right? And many people, I reference it being the Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. That world actually exists.
Oh, don't
and
know
I've been
anything
able
about
to
methane. Can you shovel pig ass?
I can.
Let him finish.
I can run generators off of it. I've ran an air conditioner from it. I've run small engines on it. I've converted a lawnmower to run off of it. And I do it all in my backyard, but yet these people were complaining about how they're going to be cold all the winter. I just take food scraps and grind them up and throw them out there in the digester, and there we go. I cook for at least 3 to 4 hours a day from this stuff, and it's all free.
Yeah, I've seen some, we'll call them prepper websites, that kind of a thing, where folks are using technology similar to this, or at least like home hacking websites, where something you described sounds very familiar to what I've seen, which is somebody just builds a regular compost pile, in their backyard or whatever, and all their food scraps or whatever just goes into that pile. But what they do is they put a copper tube, a swirl of copper tubing inside of the compost pile, and they connect, a hose to it with a small solar-powered pump. And what that does is it'll they hook it up to like the flooring. I'm trying to remember the name of it. The beneath your wood floors, they put little pipes, little hoses, the heated floors, and so they just connect that up, and that heats their house.
So the compost pile heats the water,
right?
That
Even
then heats
in the
their
winter,
house.
because compost is an organic process, right? So it's always generating heat, and so as long as the water continues to flow through this heated thing, and it's heating the water in the copper coil, and then being passed back into the house, it heats the floors, and it's able to heat, a structure. Now, of course, your mileage will vary. You're going to have to do the math on how big a compost pile do you need, how much compost do you need to have to like make this work. But I'm curious if this is something he's talking about.
This is just it uses bacteria like cow farts basically, and they eat the carbohydrates and sugars from whatever it is that you slurry up in there, and then they go through their process, and what comes out on the other side is a liquid nutrient that's perfect for gardening. You can digest waste products from humans in there. I don't. I only use food scraps from the kitchen because I do like to separate those two things.
Okay.
But at the same time, that's also a source. But like I said, I ran generators and things off of it for hours on end. I ran an air conditioner for 45 minutes from the generator power, and it might not seem like a lot, but when you're sitting there and thinking just the stuff I would normally throw away, or what's even better, this is the best one, that people that live in municipalities would pay taxes or pay a service fee to have the garbage truck spend fuel to take it to the landfill where it does the same thing, and our landfill powers 144,000 homes. They said if they could, they sell enough power and create enough power a week to provide service for 144,000 homes. And I'm like, well, if they can do it, by golly, I can do it, and I've done it.
If people want to do this for themselves, do you have, do you offer this as a service, or do you have have you published any of this, or, how can folks find out more?
Good question.
I have a YouTube channel. It's Virginia Biogas Corp, CORPS, on YouTube. However, I'd be willing to give people information further than that if they want to get a hold of me through there in the comments on YouTube, because that way I can talk to people directly and really, like I said, I've done so many things with this. I put it all on there. I've got a lot of friends that are also doing this stuff, and I feel like it's kind of overlooked because we hear this and we hear that, but no one's really taking the time to find the solutions. So I've got the solutions. Let's do this thing.
That is really cool. How do you find the channel? I'm looking for it right now, and it maybe your band or something like that. What's it called again?
Virginia Biogas Corp.
CORP? Corp?
Corpse.
It may be Corp. It may be Core with an S. Let me check. I don't even
right.
know my own YouTube channel.
Is it all one word?
Yep, it's one word. It's Virginia Biogas Corp with a P, no S and a period.
No S. All right, we'll take a look for it, man. Oh, there it is. There, yeah, you really have to get it just right because searching for it, it's 3 words. It doesn't come up. So thanks for the heads up. Very cool. Sounds like a lot of people could learn from this. Captain looks like he's really interested in this.
I'm on it now.
As a homeowner.
Like I said, shoot me a message on there, and I'll be glad to answer questions because everyone needs to know.
That's really cool, Daniel. Thanks for reaching out to us tonight here. I definitely appreciate hearing from you, and thanks for the long-time listenership.
One of the things to point out is that they want you to be reliant on their institutions, and that can't happen if you're self-sufficient. And this is one of those steps that you can take to be truly self-sufficient.
At least one step towards it, right? Because he said it may not cover everything, but it's, otherwise you just throw the stuff away. So what a waste otherwise.
Well, and I've been looking at stuff like you can build, are you familiar with the rocket stove? It's just a way of burning wood that compresses it down through a smaller area so that it burns faster and hotter.
No.
That's it's a little thing you build. You can build it out of bricks. You can build it out of tin cans, that kind of a thing. So somebody has now devised a way to use a rocket stove to project the heat. So they've built some sort of a thing that you put behind the stove, and now you can direct that heat even into places like existing homes, for example. So if you have a duct system for like an oil-based heater, a gas-based heater or something, you can now tap into that and direct the heat coming off these rocket stoves. So you don't have to have the stove inside your house.
Okay.
You can have it outside in your driveway or, somewhere close by, but like far enough to where, you're not going to start the house on fire. And then you can now sort of project that heat in through your existing duct system.
Wow.
So like in a grid down situation, you know what I mean? You can have heat like in the dead of winter, if we see electric prices, I heat with electric. If we see them go through the roof and a guy can't afford it anymore, got to have a backup plan. So
good luck to those people in the European Union that are living in apartment complexes, though, because you don't have very many options there. If you can, you probably should get out of the cities, because it could get really ugly. But we're out of time for the radio show tonight. There's more coming up. 10:30 Eastern Time at watch.freetalklive.com. With guys coming back for Beard Talk Live tonight. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Inflation, a sidelined labor force, and ever-increasing interest rates. It's the perfect storm for pushing the U.S. economy over the edge. Savvy investors are diversifying into gold and silver with BullionMax.com. You can buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals will ship fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live listeners can now order one of BullionMax's most popular products, the Goldback. Now in stock, but supplies are going fast. To get your Goldbacks, go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest?